Because you got powerful legs. How'd you get the physique? Was it gym or how'd you get the physique?
I've always been.
She's actually not got powerful legs. Do you shower in your dressing room? Do you have a shower on the day of a fight or not? Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
I'm sure no one will mind.
Move him out of here, Darren.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing nutters messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump. You know what I'm saying?
Welcome, folks, to the 605th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse. You can find us at 8 o'clock in the UK on Sundays, noon Pacific time in the United States. The next day, you can get us everywhere you find your favorite podcasts. Make sure to like us on any of those platforms. Leave a review. All that stuff helps. And with me today right now, we have Justin and we have James. I do believe Des will be popping in later. Probably get a Rappin' Rob Kelly appearance as well. But anyhow, we had a weekend full of fights, not necessarily the fights at the very, very top levels of the sport or the ones that are the most anticipated. But I still feel like we were fairly entertained. And maybe we actually did have one that was at the top level of the boxing, of the sport of boxing, as I think about it. When on Friday night, Keyshawn Davis in 4 rounds just dominated Dennis Berinchyk, especially with body shots, finishing him off with one. Berinchyk unable to make the count. He did not seem too much to want to be there. And Keyshawn Davis making a statement that he belongs with these big dogs at 135 pounds who seem very uninterested in fighting each other. But Davis got out there. He got his first strap in just his 14th fight, I think, something of that nature, 12th, 14th. It was a good feat for the young man. And he will be moving onwards and upwards. But this fight didn't come without controversy prior the fight with Davis being sent or dropped off at his hotel a gift, which was a box of bananas and watermelons. Doing a little bit of that racist thing. And they do believe it was Berinchyk and his team kind of thing. So that looms large in its own way over this fight. But 4th round stoppage, who needs justice when you can do it with your fists? Justin, what do you think of this fight from Friday night? It was quicker than most people thought it would be. A lot of folks thought it would go to decision, but Davis was just absolutely dominant over this former Olympian.
I think you kind of hit on the head a minute ago. It looked like Berinchyk. I mean, don't take me wrong. You can't take nothing away from Davis. But it did look like Berinchyk just wasn't feeling it. I think he just wasn't there. I mean, because he never seemed like he was up for it, even when they first started. And Davis was faster, stronger, younger, more skilled. I mean, it was a whitewash. And these are the kind of fights that Davis, this is the way he's supposed to look. And then Berinchyk, this like not passing of the torch. You know what I'm saying? He's supposed to take out a Berinchyk at this stage. But Berinchyk just couldn't take anything. Davis he couldn't see the punches coming. He couldn't take them. He was slow. He was made perfect for Davis. This was the perfect guy to get in there for him. He got him a title. He looked good. It all worked. Top Rank, this could not have worked out any better for them. This is exactly how you would write it, and it worked out exactly the way they want it. And as far as the watermelon and the whole banana thing, I don't even know what the hell you can say about that shit. If he did do it, which I will say this, if he did do it, this might come back to the whole somebody threw paint on Sandy Ryan thing, but
yeah,
if he did, if it was real, and I'm still going to say I'm going to lean towards it didn't happen just because it makes good headlines and they were pushing each other. And I'm just saying I don't believe a lot of stuff that happens in this world. So let's say if he did do it, then he deserves to get his ass beat like he did. Because, come on, man. This is the 2025. People still, I don't even know how you even word if he did do it. I don't think he did. Honestly, I don't think. And how hard would it be to figure out if he did do it? They got cameras. There's somebody on his team delivering some bananas. He didn't how hard would that be? He didn't have it door dashed. It was like some guy in his team would have set it there. It would take Top Rank 4 minutes to find out if he did it or not. So whatever. But yeah, Davis.
Log onto my Amazon account here. Get some Whole Foods.
Yeah. So Davis, Davis got it done. He's got his belt. Now he's going to be like, where is he going to go? We can get into that later on. But he did what he was supposed to do. He beat Berinchyk. Looked like an old guy who had about 5,000 amateur fights, and he just looked like an old man. And Davis did not play with his food. Just put him out of his misery. And I love when guys don't sit there and try to go rounds. You've got him, take him. And so, yeah, Davis looked good. And I think you've seen that he is the future. He's going to be there. And now it's just got to get him versus somebody.
Yeah, and we're playing a little bit of a waiting game right now because Top Rank's deal with ESPN is expiring. I think the last card is going to be in July or something like that. And then it seems likely that Top Rank is going to find themselves among the mini promoters operating on DAZN, which opens up just about every possibility for Davis except for the other Davis, Gervonta, which is certainly interesting. But before we get too heavy into that, James, your thoughts on the fight? It was one of those where it was conclusive, but I find myself underwhelmed, and it wasn't by Keyshawn Davis. I think I was just tremendously underwhelmed by Dennis Berinchyk.
Well, I think Justin was right in that Keyshawn Davis was superior in every aspect. Bigger, stronger, younger, hit harder, was quicker, had a more effective defense. And he was meaner. When they got inside, he was landing short, hard punches to the body. And his defense, even though it's not the prettiest thing, it's definitely effective. And he was always in position to counterpunch and did a lot of damage to Berinchyk in quite a short amount of time. And to be honest, I try and stay away from the circus around boxing because I watched it for years and years and years, and it just becomes this same cycle of outrage and clickbait and promoters talking shit, and it's just all nonsense, and it takes up a lot of time and energy. So I don't even go into that space. So I didn't hear about the alleged incident with the fruit being sent to Keyshawn Davis's room. So, and again, similar to Justin, like you hear so much information and misinformation online that I really wouldn't know what to make of that. In terms of Davis moving forward, you said yourself that this might be the first of many world championships. Now, he looked quite big in there compared to Berinchyk. I know that they're at different phases of their careers, and there's likely going to be a size disparity in that situation. But do you see him staying where he is at lightweight, or do you see him going up, or some potential matchups now? His contractual situation is freeing up. Like, where do you see him going?
there's just too many good fights to be made around there, and that's why I feel like I just I'm interested to see if Top Rank will get up with the zone, because that opens up so many possibilities as far as where Keyshawn Davis can go from here. He's I mean, it'll be interesting, because I'll tell you, it'll be interesting seeing, and I don't want to get too far ahead of us, but it'll be interesting seeing on this weekend how Shakur Stevenson deals with Floyd Schofield, who is, younger, more, he's a younger, athletic, tall, more physical fighter than him in the division. It'll be interesting to see how he deals with that, because I think Keyshawn Davis against Shakur Stevenson is a very interesting fight, because I don't think, given the chance, maybe he's on one more Top Rank card on ESPN before everything's said and done. We'll see. But are we going to see him against Abdullah Mason, who looked absolutely sensational this weekend as well? I don't know, and that's a shame. But hopefully, we see that in the future. We see Abdullah Mason get a chance against somebody with the title in the future, because that's another talented fighter. I mean, that's what I'm thinking about, Justin. Like, everything bad going on around us, and I'm like, man, if Top Rank goes over to DAZN this next year, and boxing could be fucking great. Like, Saudi Arabia has nothing with what's going on. Well, I guess they do a little bit, but they have really nothing to go around over here. At least I'll be entertained if they make these fights. I mean, this round robin of all these guys that's on there, it could be absolutely incredible. And that's not even counting if William Zepeda gets another W over Tevin Farmer and does it big. He's going to be talked about again in this division. Again, the only guy in this 135 makes that's really not in this DAZN makeup possibly in the next year is Gervonta Davis, and he doesn't seem to care. He's ready to be retired.
He don't care.
It's such a shame, because there's so many hot fights to be made.
Well, I think, like, answer James' question is, he's young, so yes, he will end up probably at 147 before it's all said and done. But he needs to keep his weight under control, because, like you just said, there's too much here right now to worry about going up. There's too much there's too much money to be made. There's too many big fights right here. So that's down the road. He will end up being 147. So he'll go up, because he's just so young. Eventually, your body can't just stay at this weight forever, but he needs to do what he can to stay at this weight, because as of now, I think he's competitive versus everybody. I mean, why not put him in? I mean, he's competitive versus them all, so there's no point of him even thinking about trying to move up. And like you said, Gervonta, I don't honestly think Gervonta Davis cares about anything, because I don't think he's interested. Because look how much money he makes fighting pretty much whoever he wants to. That you lose your fire and your interest if you're making so much money, and then you kind of do whatever you want to do. And him being, because he is the odd man out. You're right. I mean, PBC is not going to get invited to the DAZN show right now. I'm sure. And the PBC fighters, they're starting to, they're not like their roster is not what it was. So, yeah, he needs to, if Gervonta Davis is serious about doing this, he needs to do it now. I mean, his whole career is eventually going to be a waste. His career is just wasting away to nothing by sitting out, posting stupid pictures of him and his long hair, just not doing anything. That's all he does. It's like, you go to either, I think we all listen here hate when guys talk about they're the best. I'm the best. I'm the best. But if you don't fight anybody the best, then how are you the best?
Yeah, well, Justin,
if you don't fight, yeah.
Would you consider Tank Davis number one in the division?
God, talent-wise,
I would just like would you just put him at number one? Would you comfortably pick anyone against him at lightweight?
No, probably not. I mean, honestly, if Gervonta Davis is on, he's going to be. I think, I would favor him, edge him to anybody right now. I mean, because I would. But I just wish he would fight him. I just wish he would fight him, though. That's the point. I mean, that's why I just said it's bad that the number one guy is not willing to really get, really to come out and say, because Gervonta Davis, I've always said this. I know you got contracts, but if he went to Al Hammond, then he's like, I want it now. Enough's enough. I've made you all this money. Give me Shakur. Give me these guys. They would make that happen. Period. It's up to him. And obviously he's not pushing that because they would make these fights. And it's a shame when the guys don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. And you don't want to. And also, I mean, you have one career. You don't want to sit back when you're 40-some years old and saying, hey, man, I really should have. Maybe I should have went for it. Maybe I should have done this. You got to do it now. And so I think Keyshawn Davis is wide open for him. I don't know who really wants to step up and fight him now because he's kind of a lose-lose. He's still not big enough name where you're going to like put yourself over the. You know, it's a weird situation, but at least the fights are there.
He's got a title now, so there's something that people want. And Thomas Newman said, "Wonder if Hearn pulls back a bit on trying to match Andy Cruz against Keyshawn after watching his last two fights, where as Cruz has not set the world light in his last two outings." And I think Cruz has done all right. I think he's fought a pretty high level of competition considering how early in his pro career he is, and there's some bad blood from the AMs in this, and that's a fight I'd like to see. If there was, Andy Cruz is just one of many names at 135 pounds who plays and could probably, beat one of these guys on any given night. It's just a matter of getting him in. And it seems like, obviously Turkey Al-Sheikh is involved in getting shit done. He doesn't mess around at all. But at PBC, for as good of fights as they make, I mean, here we are. We just had Morel against Benavidez. What a fantastic fight to make. And then here in a couple of weeks, we're going to have Tank Davis taking on Lamont Roach Jr. And I like Lamont Roach Jr. I picked him to beat Hector Luis Garcia, who I'm also pretty high on. But yeah, that's a junk fight. And Amazon, I've heard rumors that they're pulling the plug, after this year or X number of months, however long this deal they're supposed to do. I mean, it's not going well for them right now at this point in time. And if the best that they can offer is for their Tank Davis fight, who is definitely one of the biggest sellers in the sport, when there are all these exceptional fighters around him who make, at least on paper, a more compelling fight that you could sell to the public. If all you can give us is Lamont Roach Jr., well, people are not going to be impressed. And if Tank is really serious about maybe retiring after this year, if this is the level of competition he wants to take on, when there are so many fighters around him that are worthy of an event, go ahead and retire. I'm perfectly fine with that. He should be just done with it at that point in time. Someone made a point and they asked if there was a Hall of Fame fighter on Tank Davis's resume. Most people thought no. I would argue and say Leo Santa Cruz, but that's it. That's kind of the state of the 135 division that Keyshawn Davis is walking into. But there's so many good fights out there for him. He might as well, if Top Rank jumps over to DAZN, chase it down. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully they start making these fights because there's such great talent right now. But anyhow, also on this card, we had Xander Zayas taking on, how the heck did we say his name? Slawa Spomer. There you go. Roy Jones Jr. was in Spomer's corner. His 9th round stoppage, the body work really finally paid off for Zayas, getting Spomer out of there and claiming his O in the process in this 154-pound contest. Zayas is he's a very good fighter, but I was kind of like with Timothy Bradley, where it's just like there's something that's missing, where there's not quite a wow factor in there. And I don't know. As far as it goes, Justin, he kind of makes me think a little bit of Virgil Ortiz, but without Virgil's raw power necessarily.
Yeah, there's something missing. I think that's why he's been matched this way. I think they know there's something missing, Top Rank and all them, because what the hell did he learn from fighting Slava Spomer, a guy who like just really offered ruggedness? That's what he offered, that he was just go rounds. Because like you said, Zayas doesn't have that one knockout punch. He just doesn't have. Timothy Bradley said it last night. It's more of a volume type guy. So that's already kind of a knock against him, because to be the best, you really need that one punch, and he just doesn't have it, because Spomer, yeah, he took a lot of, but he took a lot of shots, and it didn't really. And then I don't know, Zayas, there's something, like I think you're right. There's something that's just not there, and I think he's going to get exposed. I think when he does step up and fight another top 10 guy, he's going to get exposed. His weaknesses, he's going to get stopped, or he's just going to lose.
I don't know that exposed is the right word. I kind of feel like it's more that he's very, very willing to exchange, and he's probably going to be in there with a bigger puncher and get caught in an exchange and just get the worst end of it. I think I don't know. I think
it's coming. I think everybody that watched it's coming. He's going to hit that wall, because there's a reason why. I know you're supposed to go slow with guys, and he was young, but they have just been creeping with him. I mean, like really slow. And I guess the other thing was in that fight is how in the world did Roy Jones Jr. start training Slava Spomer, some bald guy from Germany? I don't know how that relationship. That was like that's the stuff boxing brings. You look over in the corner, I was like, how in the world is Roy Jones? And then, of course, Roy Jones has never trained a good fighter, because everybody he fights, he never trains anybody any good. I don't really understand why people seek Roy out. I guess just because of his name, but that was a really random corner. And Spomer was just a limited guy, and that's who Zayas has been facing. Just guys that are very limited, and I don't know when they're going to push him. It's going to have to come this year or early next year, because, I mean, how long can you wait? You're going to wait till he gets 40 fights in? He's already got 20-some fights. It's time to make a move of some kind with Zayas. I'm tired. I'm not saying
if I could match him against the right guy to see if he moves forward, and this dude, I don't even know if he's really even fighting much anymore, but I'd like to see him in what I think would be a very entertaining fight against Brian Castano. I think that's kind of
that's the guy that would push him. He would definitely skilled push him. And Castano, he might be done, but you're right. That is the kind of guy that the threat might be a little bit lower, but it would be his best opponent. So, and he would make Zayas do different things that he's not used to doing. So, yeah, that would be – I mean, they have to do something. They have to start bringing the level up, because what's he learning right now? He didn't learn anything Friday. He just beat up some guy. I mean, he didn't really – what did he learn? He didn't have to – there was no – like, he didn't have to dig deep. He didn't have to really get out of second gear. They're going to have to push that.
Yeah, we'll see if they or who the next person Top Rank puts him in with. James, I don't know. Did you catch this one on the Top Rank undercard this weekend?
No, I just caught the main event, but I've never seen Xander Zayas fight, and you two are not selling him to me. I think he sounds like how you used to describe Balanga before he had his test against Canelo. So I can't say I'm altogether disappointed to have missed his fight. So not punching, looks like he's being protected, potentially a knockout waiting to happen.
You know, he's only 22. He's only 22, I'll say, though.
I mean, yeah, obviously plenty of time to develop, but this is why I think moving prospects along is such a precarious business, because when's the right time to push? I mean, I was watching a few videos earlier, and, remember David Price, the Liverpool heavyweight who went in against Tony Thompson way too early, just after Thompson.
How could we ever forget? How could we
forget?
Yeah.
That is like a prime example of why you wouldn't be too adventurous with a prospect, because something devastating can happen. Now, the other side of that coin is it lasting for too long, and then the fighter not developing anything but a false sense of security. So when they do fight someone real, they get horribly exposed, and that can be just as detrimental to their development. So I have a little bit of sympathy for matchmakers in a way, because when's the best time to go and when's the best time to push him? As I said, I've never seen him fight, so I really couldn't assess where he's at, in my opinion.
It's funny you bring up David Price. That was the stupidest matchmaking, in my opinion, because I guess they thought so highly of David Price. I mean, everybody did. You remember what Bellew said? I mean, we make fun of it, but that's what people were thinking.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like, did you ever watch Tony Thompson fight? He could bang, and he was big, and he had ability.
And
that was just,
well.
That was
game.
Maybe he was like Tony Thompson was in every fight he ever fought.
Yeah,
he gave everybody a decent time. That was just, I think that was the definition of overconfidence in that. Yeah, that wasn't the best move. But no, I mean, Zayas, like Matt said, he's 22, he's young, but I think what happens is when you start showing a guy on TV for like the last 4 years and you push him as hard as they push him, fans expect more. You start expecting, hey, we don't care he's a prospect. You've interviewed this guy 50 times. We've been to Puerto Rico so he can have a homecoming show. It's like you're the ones that make the timeline go up by pushing them so hard. You raise the expectations. And that's where the fans are like, well, you've built this guy up so much. Let's see it.
Yeah, well, they can have it kind of both ways, can't they? They can have a homecoming show and push him as a prospect. It's a little bit like Ryan Garcia. He was marketable in other ways. And I'm guessing from how you describe in Xander Zayas that Ryan Garcia is probably a little bit above him ability-wise. But there's still that aspect of he was famous before he went anywhere near a world title, Ryan Garcia. I mean, he's still like, even the world title he won was draped in all kind of, controversies. But it was fame, and it was like a circus when he won that title against Haney. So there are other ways where you can extract value from a prospect, even if he's not beating top quality opposition, which sounds like what's happening here.
Yeah, Ryan Garcia dwells in the madness. That's just kind of where he lives. It's kind of like the mind games of like the Undertaker in 90s WWF wrestling kind of shit, I guess, in its own stupid freaking way. I'll tell you, if there's one thing going for Zayas, it's that he's young, and I have always seen him stay composed in his fights. I think there might have been a couple of moments against Teixeira where he could have, it got a little dicey and he was okay and he came out okay. If I recall, I could be wrong. But he's, there's something to him, but he's not going to be one of those fighters that we consider the A class. Apparently he wants to be in the ring for Puerto Rican Day weekend, the parade weekend in June of this year. So we'll see if that happens and who they put in with them. That used to be a really fun event, and they kind of need someone to become a big name to take that on. It was Tito Trinidad's, and then Miguel Cotto was able to take it over. So they're kind of looking for a standard bearer for the Puerto Rican boxing community. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. He kind of needs the right opponent. He needs something that gets people talking. Still hasn't quite happened yet, but we'll see where if he finds it in his next fight, or maybe if Top Rank finds its way over to DAZN. Let's see here. Also on this card, I'll tell you, this was a fun fight, and I didn't think it was a draw, though. Vito Maniki and Connor Coyle went at it for 10 rounds, and there were definitely some rounds that Connor Coyle won, but I don't think there were 5 of them necessarily. I thought Milnicki did win the bulk of the rounds. He landed the harder shots, but it was a really entertaining fight all in all, with Milnicki's first foray at 160 pounds, thinking he might have gotten somebody's O, but unfortunately he just adds a draw to his own resume. Justin, did you catch this one?
Yeah, I'm like you. I thought Milnicki won at like 6-4. I mean, you can't really complain about the draw. The only thing about the draw that gets you is that Milnicki hurt Coyle at least 4 times, like really hurt him. And I guess for like Milnicki, it kind of sucks the fact that I drew with this guy, but he really hurt him at least 4 times where Coyle was staggering and kind of like stumbling a little bit. And then to get a draw, I always think it's to get a draw when you've been stunned at least 4 times is always he got lucky. I think Coyle was lucky to kind of get that draw and come out with it. But Maniki can only blame himself. He kind of let Coyle shoe shine him a lot. And Coyle was just laying like 4, 5, 6 shots in a row. Maniki just kind of went in and out of what he wanted to do. Did he want to box? Did he want to scrap with him? And then I remember his corner was telling him, trying to go over, well, what are we doing here? You going to box him or are you going to try to, and you got to give Coyle credit. He's a limited guy, but he had a really good engine and he just kept going. And I think that's what got him the draw is that I think some of those rounds, it's just the fact that he was a little bit more active.
Well, there was a couple of rounds. There's a couple of rounds where he only landed a single shot, or maybe it was a single power punch. It wasn't very good for him, and it was after the 2 rounds. It was either like round 6 and 7 or 5 and 6. It was after 2 rounds that he won conclusively, and then I think he took probably the next round or the round after the ones that he seemed to take off, and I guess people were thinking the 9th and the 10th were a little bit swingier in order to potentially get to Coyle for the draw on that one. But
I guess neither guy did a lot. I think is what at times both guys kind of had those periods. But this is the whole time I was watching that fight, I kept thinking, you got 2 guys here. They're not world champions. What do they all call it? This is a good trade fight. The old school saying, just a good old school boxing trade fight where you got 2 guys kind of at the same level, and it was fun to watch. It was interesting. The draw, it is what it is. I guess Niki's just happy he didn't lose because I didn't think he was that close to lose it, but I guess he's got to look at it that way because if he had have lost, I don't know where he'd have went career-wise. The draw actually was not the worst case thing could have happened to him. But yeah, it was what it was. Coyle is just I didn't realize Coyle was that old. He's like 36. So he's nearing the end. So
yeah, just one of those guys who turned pro late and then didn't really get many fights along the way.
They're not neither guy's going a lot of places. I just put them in there again. Just put them on another undercard. It was entertaining enough.
Niki's so young too. How old is he?
He's like 25.
He's also 22.
Yeah, he's another guy that you've seen since he was like 17, 18. So he's another guy that I don't think he has enough talent to really be a world champion, but he's an entertaining guy. He gets that New York, New Jersey area crowd. He'll still bring some people in. Just let him throw him in against Coyle again and just put him on a same thing they did here, 4th, 5th fight, and let them do it again because there's not a lot out there for them to do.
I think he ought to put him in against Joey Spencer in kind of like a East Coast battle thing.
Which white guy will get nipped? Which white guy's gone? That's what it is. We have to hit one of them. Yeah. Somebody, they've got to go. We can't have them both out. They've got to get rid of one of these guys because they're pretty much the same guy.
At the end of the day, yeah.
They're the same guy.
I think Maniki is better personally.
He is. Spencer is very. He was one of those guys. Like you remember the PBC had Maniki. They had Spencer. They were pushing all these like New York, New Jersey guys, and they're just not that good. They're not bad. They're just not that good. And yeah, put them in. You're right. That'll probably draw a good crowd. Put it like
Ennis better. He's a
Ennis
Jersey guy.
Ennis fights Stanionis. I don't even know if they could. No, they would get on that card. That's a different promoter.
Yeah.
I'm saying that would be the perfect New Jersey undercard fight. You know how they used to do back in the day. That would draw a lot of people to watch them fight each other because they're both from that area. But yeah, that's not going to work out either. So yeah. There's options. There are options.
That used to be what Peter Manfredo did. The
collapse
of Atlantic City collapsed Peter Manfredo's earning power.
That's the days. So Peter Manfredo was headlining because he was from Providence, and they didn't really have they don't have a lot of boxing. So he was the Dunkin' Donut Center. He was getting headlining everything, and he just wasn't that good. But they kept putting him out there, and he was on that Contender.
Yep.
And they kept talking about that he was boxing. He also was a janitor at night. We heard that story like 1,000 times that he used to actually clean the Dunkin' Donut Center after one of his fights when he was still young. It was like I heard that story. They told it 1,000,000 times. He fought Kermit Cintron there too, didn't he? I swear I thought. I think he fought him at the Dunkin' Donuts. Anyway, we don't really know good on the Peter Manfredo. I don't know how people listening to this podcast even remember Peter Manfredo Jr.
Yeah, they might. Well,
they might.
Anyhow, let's see here. I don't know what else you caught on that card. I'm just going to run down what else. But I would say, honestly, I think the Maniki Coyle fight's probably, as far as entertainment value went, for what I saw, I'd say that was the one to watch. Jared Anderson came back and labored to a 10-round decision against Greek Marlos Kolias. Rohan Polanco got a second-round stoppage over Jean Carlos Torres. Abdullah Mason got a fourth-round stoppage over Manuel Jaimes. And Nico Ali Walsh taking the second loss of his career in another split decision. So and also Keon Davis, brother of Keyshawn, got a KO victory in, I think, the second fight of his career. Yep. So yeah, anything else you saw on there, Justin? Otherwise, we'll move on.
You can move on. But Mason had a good knockout, but I mean I think he's still a little bit of ways, but he looked good.
Yeah, I mean, it's another guy. He just needs the fights, and it's tough to match him because you might be sacrificing your other guys. Because if you think about the young guys they have over there, they also have Raymond Murataya, who I could see either one of those guys fighting in their next fight, honestly. So yeah, we'll see. That's actually a good fight as far as prospects or a prospect getting a chance at a fresh champion. So yeah, but anyhow. Yeah, so that was a fun card there. We also had action from the UK on Saturday, and that fight kind of surprised me with the outcome there. It was a real nip and tuck affair between Jack Catterall and Arnold Barboza, and I thought personally that Barboza had done enough when it finished, but I'm thinking, man, he's not on home turf. A lot of those rounds were close. I don't know that he's going to be getting this one. In fact, I had earlier in the day put just literally a couple of bucks on a draw, thinking that might be the best he could hope for. But lo and behold, 2 of the 3 scorecards went his direction, and Arnold Barboza is a new interim champion or something or other. Does it really matter? Probably not. But this was a good fight. It wasn't entertaining, but it was definitely a fight between highly skilled boxers where they were trying to find the right shots and kept having to switch up what they were doing a little bit to score points round by round, and just change things slightly. And I think Barboza just had a few more tools. Catterall ultimately is really just a jab and left-hand fighter. Whereas I think Barboza has a few more tricks in his sleeve. He started throwing a 2-1 with the one being kind of a swivel jab. If Tim Bradley was watching it, he might have had an orgasm. Entirely possible. Because, yeah, there are a few rounds where what Barboza was doing was really tidy with that little move. But for me, I had him narrowly, and so did 2 of the judges. Did you agree with that outcome there, James?
I had it 115, 113 Catterall, but I also had 3 swing rounds. So if you flip them, it could have been 116, 112 to Barboza. Pretty close fight. I wasn't really mad at the result. But, with Catterall, with that economical style, he's always playing with fire in terms of going to the judges' scorecards. And it's cost him twice in his career. I mean, the first one against Josh Taylor was particularly egregious. Like, that was as close to an actual robbery as you're likely to see. But yeah, he's proved that in the subsequent fights that he's quality, and he beat Taylor in the rematch. And then with the Prograis win as well, he's definitely at the top tier of the division. And I actually quite like him. I feel like he's got a lot of personality that isn't immediately apparent. I know, he promoted this fight it was like a collage of spoofs of Instagram memes. It was showed a lot of personality that tried to counteract the allegations against his in-ring style, which were that it was boring. And this fight was boring, and I don't really enjoy saying that. It was very, it was feint heavy with each fighter trying to make the other one lead, and the pockets of action were really sporadic. It was one shot here, another there. It rarely opened up into anything, spectacular or, for me, particularly enticing as a fight. So yeah, it was close enough for the decision to go any which way. And it's one of those situations where Catterall, who could have once been the undisputed champion at 140 pounds, is now looking at a precarious next step in his career, because
he's in no man's land kind of right now.
Yeah, exactly. Why would you go near him if you're anyone? Like, if anyone in the top 5 or 6, unless you're Josh Taylor and you're looking for some kind of trilogy, which I could probably see happening, to be honest. But other than that, why would you fight Jack Catterall, who's just going to be a long, annoying night's work, and he could potentially put you on your ass a couple of times as well? So yeah, he's in a tough spot at the moment after this result, to be honest.
You know, I'll tell you what, the way that he fights, Justin, I might get crucified for saying this. The way that he fights, Catterall is kind of a poor man's Rigondeaux.
I don't know what is. I think James summed it up.
And Rigondeaux's a Cuban. I don't know how impoverished that makes.
Yeah,
Catterall,
you're right.
but,
You'd have to say poor man's, because he's definitely doesn't have the same shots that Rigondeaux could throw. But Catterall, this was like James said, this was just who he is. This is what he does. He sits back, he looks to counter with that left. This is what he does. And like James said, it's burned him twice. Barboza just had more shots. And I think I had Barboza by a round. I think I had him winning by a round. But I think he varied a little bit more. There was a little bit more variation. And I think at times, to the judges, it looked like Barboza was pushing the fight more, because he was kind of the one that was at times not pushing it hard, because either guy really pushed it that hard, the fight. But at times he looked like he was the guy trying harder at times. And Catterall, that's one of those things. He's been like this his whole career. He's never going to get out of it. That's who he is. That's his gear. That's how he wants to fight. I can imagine how boring it is to watch him train, because it's got to be the same. Just the sparring sessions and everything has to be the same speed, because he just doesn't really change it up much. And I think James summed it up. He's going nowhere. I mean, his career is hit the wall, because who wants him? Who needs him? And unless Eddie or whoever could find some way to pay somebody off, but do something to get him in there. I mean, he doesn't have to start from scratch, but he's going to have to, if he wants to keep going, it's going to take him couple of fights to even get back to the interim fight level, because this is a huge knock. I mean, this not good. It's not good for him. And they really had this set up that for him to win this. I don't think any of them thought they were going to lose this fight. Barboza, I think, just had a little bit more, especially I think he had a little bit more to prove, because I thought he lost to the Irish guy. I definitely thought he lost that fight a year or so ago. And so I did not think there was no way he was going to get a close fight.
Yeah, I was surprised. That's why I put money on the draw.
Yeah, there's no way. That never happened. Yeah. So now we have to say, we always say there's corruption in boxing. Well, it didn't happen last night.
It all depends on the product at hand, though, right? But and that's just like, it probably offends you if you're Jack Catterall that you couldn't get a close decision in your hometown, because they're basically saying, look, we can't make any money off of you, buddy. We got to send this belt and the opportunities elsewhere. And they're like,
because Catterall really isn't. He isn't a moneymaker. I mean, he's not a Catterall. People might say I shouldn't, whatever, but he's not a headliner. He's not a main event guy. His style, just everything. That's not. I mean, maybe over in England, y'all love Jack Catterall, and it was a sold out crowd, and people are just lining the streets to see his fights. But I don't see it.
No,
I don't see it.
So
I'm saying so.
Yeah, it's not like Primo Ricky Hatton days by any stretch of the imagination. That's not to say he doesn't have support where he's from or in the Northwest, but at the same time, I can pretty comfortably say if you ask people out on the street who Jack Catterall is, they wouldn't have a clue, to be honest.
And that's why Maddie's point was exactly, he's not going to get the home cooking call because he doesn't. I don't know. It is. I mean, it's good for Barboza. He come over there. He went across. He got the win. He'll come back over here on Golden Boy at his own, and we'll see him in some decent fights. So yeah, it all worked out. I'd rather see Barboza in a bigger fight than I would Catterall. So it worked out for me.
Yeah, I think Barboza was like kind of basic. I mean, very composed. Like he was very he kept his shape really well. But it was just one of those fights where half a punch would land here and there, and there wasn't much jeopardy in a sense, you know. It was
what about the knock? Oh, sorry, I didn't remember. What about the knockdown? Because I know Bellew went on a 20-minute rant. I mean, I thought he tripped him. I thought he tripped, but that's very people were saying he did. It looked like he tripped and he fell. That's what I thought.
You see them given sometimes, and in this instance, no. I didn't think it was particularly egregious, like a talking point. But in the later rounds, he slipped in a similar way. He just didn't go down.
Yeah,
it suggested that he did just slip. So I don't know.
Well, the referee, you got to think the referee saved him, because if he'd have given that, Catterall wins.
Yeah, that's true. And
so yeah, that's it.
We do usually decry the officials for the mistakes that they make, and I think in this instance, the referee and the judges were like playing it straight down the line. So a refreshing one, really, even if the fight itself wasn't, that spectacular.
Let me say this. So last week, I think I alluded to the fact that Arnold Barboza, in his last fight against Ramirez, had refused to pay any more sanctioning fees because they had jerked him around for a couple of years, basically, on when his opportunity was due. So my hunch, I forget what belt this was for. They all freaking blur together to me, but I do believe that they probably said to the judges, the officials, everybody, look, this needs to be straight hand here, guys, because this guy's already pissed off at us. If we fuck him over here, it's probably going to be a really bad time for everybody involved, because he's already furious. So let's just do the right thing here and call it down the line, gentlemen. But anyhow, James, let me ask you, would you put Adam Azim or Dalton Smith in with him, with Catterall?
Adam Azim or Dalton Smith? That's, what? I was really impressed with Adam Azim last time out. I was really impressed with him, but Catterall has a knack of slowing his opponents down to his speed, and I wonder if he'll be able to kind of diffuse the activity that Azim can bring. And Dalton Smith, I think, would push the fight, and that would also work in Jack Catterall's favor. Those are both two enticing fights, and because those are two younger fighters, they're not prospects anymore. They're on the fringes of world level. I think those would be really, really enticing fights, but maybe it would take another loss or two against a top 10 American or similar for Catterall to consider fighting those guys who are probably a stage previous to him in terms of their career development. And once you start getting beat by those guys, you really devalue yourself. So I don't believe he would be taking them anytime soon, although they will be good fights, I feel.
Yeah, you can end up with an opponent's mentality after going through all that and taking that route.
Well, just in terms of, how do you sell? Well, Justin alluded to him not being a main event guy, but even though he's occupying the top of the card, how do you push Catterall 2 years from now if someone like Dalton Smith beats him on the way to a potential loss himself at the top level? It devalues everyone, doesn't it? That's why they keep these fighters apart for as long as they can, so they can pretend they're potentially all the best in the world in one way or another.
Well, and it's tough that maybe these guys never necessarily intersect at that point in their career, because you got to think, if they're not getting Dalton Smith into a title shot, sometime, at least early next year, I don't know where his career is headed to. Azim might be a little bit short of that at this point in time, and maybe has an easier path to him and Catterall meeting each other. But I feel if Dalton Smith and Jack Catterall are ever going to fight, I actually think it would probably end up having to be this year, I think after that they diverge unless Dalton Smith is not successful in his attempt at a title. In which case, going in there with a lost Dalton Smith could definitely face Catterall at some point.
Well, you're right. I mean, Azim and Smith will take that fight in a heartbeat, way before Catterall would take it because they have nothing to lose. I mean, they're young guys. If they lose to a Catterall, that's not like a devastating, career-ending loss. But like James just said, Catterall, if he loses that fight, it is like there's nowhere to go then. So I mean, Smith and Azim, I don't think they have any issue taking it. But I don't, like you said, I don't think James. I don't think Catterall, especially when he probably thinks that he got robbed last night. I don't think he has any plans to go any domestic fights right now at all.
Oh, he probably very well considers himself an undefeated fighter in his head.
Yeah. So he's. I don't think he's ready to drop to that level in his mind at all.
Well, to be fair to Catterall, I feel like, if he considers himself undefeated, I'd probably say fair enough. I had him winning that fight last night. It's a close fight, but nip and tuck either way, fair enough. Sometimes you get him, sometimes you don't. He absolutely smashed Josh Taylor to bits in that first fight, really. It was a closer fight the second time round. That was egregious. So, yeah, I mean, unluckily for Catterall, his style is not very marketable because if he was from a slightly more popular town and had slightly more knockouts and potentially didn't fight on the defensive like 100% of the time, then, he'd be a lot more marketable, and now it's like, where do you go? Well, not everyone can become the undisputed champion. So if he does lose fights moving forward to fighters like Smith and Azim, he can move forward and be promoted, but it's like, we'll view him in a different way. I mean, look at Chisora. Like, look at his career. How many times has he lost fights, then come back and then won unexpectedly and then goes on another run, then loses a few more. Like, with the right promoter, fighters can, spend a long time on these cards, man, whether it's to their detriment or not. Now, whether Catterall wants that road for himself is another matter entirely, but he can move forward. It's just whether he goes on to be considered one of the top fighters in his division, really.
That's a good take. I'll tell you what. At least the division at 140 pounds in the UK is kind of hot when you look at the general talent that exists at the top. But I'll tell you, I get that you and Jack might see him as undefeated. I honestly think that he had a way better argument. He won that first Taylor fight than he won this fight, even though if he would have got it 115, 113, I've watched the fight twice. I don't think I would have griped. I'm like you. There's some swing rounds in there, but yeah, the first Taylor fight was pretty egregious. That has to hurt more because that's to be the undisputed. That wasn't just like getting robbed of a title and interim belt as this one was for. I mean, that was a big burn. I mean, that was to be the man, and then he was just stuck on the shelf after that too, which was another slap in the face. So it's been rough going for Jack Catterall, but at least he got his revenge over Taylor earlier on. So let's see here. What else did we have on there? Reese Bellotti got a stoppage over Michael Gomez Jr. Gomez Jr. just wasn't able to impose his size and will on Bellotti early on. He certainly tried walking down, and it kind of seemed early that maybe Bellotti might have trouble keeping him off, just like being a visibly smaller guy. But no, he just kind of worked him over, and the fight was over, I think, between rounds 9 and 10. Justin, what do you think about this one?
It's been a while since I've seen a guy land that many body shots. I think Bellotti landed like 200. There was parts of the fight where it seemed like he threw like 25 body shots in a row, and he just could not miss to Gomez, and he was just hurting him the whole fight. And well, you have to look. I think Steve brought it up. Gomez looked like Skeletor on the when he did the weigh-in. He looked so awful. And I think that's why Bellotti had that game plan. Let's just keep going downstairs because he can't take it. And eventually he couldn't. I mean, he just broke him down. And you're right. After Gomez really couldn't bully him and Bellotti, stood up to it, that was it. Gomez had a little stretch, and then Bellotti just took over and wore him out to the body. Just kept coming at him. And eventually, Gomez just had to sit down on the rope. He just couldn't take it. And so Bellotti's another perfect example of a guy. Look at the fights he's lost. I mean, and then he just keeps coming back. I like Bellotti. He's a good guy to watch. He'll lose, come back, win a couple. He'll lose, come back and win, and then he just keeps sticking to it. So I've always liked Bellotti. He's a good guy to watch. And Gomez, hey, he couldn't take it to the body, and that's it. I mean, he just broke him down, and the better man won. Simple.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by the stoppage on that one, not necessarily the winner. The one that did catch me by surprise, I didn't actually get to see anything else on this card. Unfortunately, was doing other things. But Jazza Dickens beating Zelfa Barrett surprised me a little bit there. I thought that Barrett would impose himself on Dickens, and apparently that did not happen. And also Pat McCormick doing what I did think would happen and stopping Robbie Davies Jr. Any thoughts on the rest of that undercard there, Justin?
Nah, unless James has got something. I mean, like you said, McCormick was an easy fight. Davies didn't offer much, and he just kind of – I mean, that was a simple one. And what was I think the other one you said was what was the other fight?
Which was the other? Barrett and Jazza Dickens.
Oh, yeah, James Jazza. That's the one that Rigondeaux broke his jaw, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it is. That's the one. That's the random fight that I remember. Like, that Rigondeaux went over there, broke his jaw, left. That was the end of it. But Dickens, this is like his third different. I mean, he's still going. I mean, Barrett is. It's weird with Barrett because he lost to Kiko when he was supposed to win. I think people were favoring him in this one. I guess he just can't handle the shorter guys because they're both him and the Dickens just outboxed him. Just that left-handed style, and I like him because I'm left-handed, so I like the left-handed guys. But he just outworked him and outboxed him, and there was nothing else Barrett could do. Dickens just was better in every aspect, and he got it done. And it's just. I don't think Barrett expected Jazza Dickens to come out there and just completely outwork him and outbox him, but he did. And I don't know what James saw, but yeah, it was a good performance. And now Dickens, he's going to get another payday off of this. He'll get another decent fight off of this. And Barrett, you'd have to say, I don't know where he goes from here. He keeps getting chances, but this might be the end of the line for him.
No, I didn't catch anything from the undercard, just the main event. But just a mention of Kiko Martinez, man. He just fucked up everybody. Every time he came over to England, he just beat whoever was put in front of him. So Zelfa Barrett, one of many. So now anything else from that undercard I missed, but I did see the Oscar Duarte Miguel Madueno fight, if that's of any interest.
No, yeah, we'll definitely go to that one actually right now. And that was a pretty fun fight for the first 5 or 6 rounds. Madueno probably arguably taken the first couple. And unfortunately for him, who's normally durable, never been stopped, been in there for 10 rounds with Keyshawn Davis. For whatever reason, Duarte, hell of a puncher. This was at 140, unlike where Madueno often competes at 135, but he just started beating him down to the body. And in the 7th round, the referee pulled the plug on it, maybe a little bit early, but it didn't look good for Madueno to go any further. I got to say, James, this Madueno, again, he's been in with some guys who can punch. He took over 500 shots, I think, from Steve Claggett. I think it was a CompuBox record for the most punches landed over 10 rounds by one fighter in a fight. And Duarte was able to get him out of there in 7. I was pretty damn impressed with him, honestly.
You know, this is the 2nd or 3rd time I've seen Duarte fight, and contrary to you, actually, I'm not sure how good he is, really. He's he's big and he's strong and he's compact with his punches, but so are loads of fighters, if you know what I mean. I was a little bit underwhelmed because he was clearly the bigger guy. And I think Madueno, to be honest, I feel like if he was less adventurous, he could have stayed the distance with him, because in the in close quarters, Madueno would just let his hands go quite recklessly. And the more punches he threw, the more his chin came up in the air. And then Duarte would land 2 or 3 solid hooks inside. And that was pretty much the pattern of the fight. So I think in a lot of ways, Madueno was the architect of his own downfall in this fight. But with Duarte...
Yeah, you're right. He tried to throw with a puncher who was bigger than him, and that didn't work out. That wasn't exactly the best. That was not the best idea to try to. Yeah, he just tried to pick a fight and tried to. But he should have. Yeah, I don't think he would have won. But you're right. He can't. He completely went the wrong way style wise. That was not the way he should have fought that fight.
Yeah. So is Duarte particularly highly rated over there? Because I know he's been in there with Ryan Garcia, and I've seen another one of his fights, but I can't remember who his opponent was. Is he someone regarded that are highly regarded? Is he seems to be going places, or is he potentially a next world champion, or how are people rating him?
I think he's one of those guys that's kind of sitting around that gatekeeper status.
Yeah, he is now.
Because he's on a little bit of a run here. Let's see here.
Well, you remember at one time he was one of the Golden Boys top guys, and then they kind of like, you know what, we're just going to throw you out there to Garcia and sacrifice you. So I think Oscar and them kind of saw like where he was level wise, and kind of just threw him out there. But yeah, I think Maddie just said he's always going to be a good opponent, but he's never going to be a world champion type level guy. And they kept talking about last night, like, oh, he did something Keyshawn didn't do. This is so impressive, but you can never. Keyshawn would blow away Duarte, even at an upper weight level.
This is what made me ask the question: is that they tried to draw those comparisons on the commentary, and having just seen Keyshawn Davis, they were worlds apart, in terms of their ability. So
even at 140, Davis would beat Duarte if he went up, because Duarte is a come forward limited guy, and that's not going to work versus a Keyshawn Davis type. That's just not, and even a Ryan Garcia type. Skilled fighters are just going to eat him alive when he just puts his head down and tries to come right at you. They're just going to eat that alive.
Yeah, completely agree.
Let's see. So he beat former champion Roger Gutierrez. Then that's like 6 years ago. Interestingly enough, just trying to see if there's anyone else. I'll tell you what, Duarte just kind of. He lost to a guy, Adrian Estrella. I'm trying to remember that. That was a split decision in 2019. I don't know if I remember that fight. Then he was undefeated until Ryan Garcia in that run. A couple of kind of names you might know. But it's just one of those guys. It seems like maybe what he really needed was a promoter to look out for him and get him in the right fights. He's a good banger. He's taken out guys who have not been stopped previously, which is pretty damn impressive. So
I remember that Australia fight. That was the one that he got beat up. Like that was a slugfest, and then I think that kind of what got Golden Boy thinking, wait a minute, we might want to pull back a little bit. And then, like you said, it was a couple fights later, they just sacrificed him to Garcia. I think that fight he lost was sort of like, well, I think we've kind of seen his level, and now let's just throw him out there.
That fight was in 2019.
Yeah,
then he won like 10 fights before he fought Ryan Garcia.
Yeah, I think they had to rebuild him. And hey, I mean, not everybody can be a world champion. Not everybody can. He's entertaining to watch, and in the end, that's all that matters. I mean, we just want to see guys entertained. I really don't care if they ever win all world titles. It's just fun to watch.
That Akhmedov fight was a hell of a war too. I think at the end of the day, I'll tell you what, he's a bit of a gatekeeper, James, but I think Golden Boy is trying to make Duarte kind of one of those action tier fighters, like the way, kind of like how they had Jesus Soto Carras, although I think he might be a shade better than Soto Carras. But I'm thinking it's that kind of angle, and where the hardcore, especially the Mexican fans, they'll come out and see him.
Yeah, that's a shout, to be fair. I could see him occupying that kind of space. Couple of unsuccessful world title opportunities down the road as well, for good measure.
Yeah, he's that kind of guy who he's good to have on cards because if you need a late notice opponent, he's a good guy. He'll give you good value for your dollar, but he probably has a clear ceiling, and he's going to get beaten by your champions that you want to keep moving. But yeah, it was a fun fight while it lasted. But Madueno, he's becoming a bit of a punching bag, and I say that with the high esteem for the guy. I've always enjoyed him because he's tough as hell, but he better be careful here because that wasn't. Also on that card, Darius Fulgham just beat the living crap out of Winford Harris Jr. It went on fair bit longer than it probably needed to go. 4 rounds, maybe should have only gone 3. But Fulgham, I don't know what development there was for him in this 168-pound fight. He's a man who's looking for an opponent. Anything to say about that one, Justin?
It took him so long because that is some of the worst finishing I've ever seen in a long time.
He really crowds his opponent.
It was terrible. I mean, the announcers were like, "What is he doing?" If he just stood back and threw a jab, the referee was going to stop it. It was. I've been watching boxing a long time, and I don't think I've been that frustrated. I'm like, I'm trying to go to bed. I was like, let's get the main event going on. He just could not, like you said, smother. He could not do. He just couldn't find the punch because he was just arm punches from like a foot away, and it was pitiful. That he's definitely got to. I imagine when they go to the gym, they're gonna be like, we got to work on your finishing ability because that was pretty bad. And sometimes that's just natural. I think some guys have that ability and some don't. And he better hope, if you're backing him, that he works on that because he had a guy that just stumbled around the ring and he was chasing him and then like sort of grabbing him. He was the one kind of doing the holding, and he was supposed to be doing the finishing. I don't know where they go with Fulgham. He's got some power. There's no doubt about it. He's going to be in some fun fights. So just keep putting him out there. But if he faces a higher level guy and he gets him hurt, that's going to come and backfire on him if he can't finish it right away, because the higher level guys are going to recover quicker, and he needs to finish those fights. He can't just sit for 4 rounds. And that's just bad.
I bet you Berlanga's asking for too much money after fighting Canelo, but that'd be a fight for Fulgham, in my opinion. I think him and Berlanga.
That'd be a fun fight because that would be an interesting fight. I'd watch it. That'd be a fun fight because somebody's getting knocked out.
Yeah.
Or getting hurt.
Yeah, the result only really matters like if Fulgham like wins and kind of looks good doing it.
Yeah.
I think we know where Berlanga and his level is. I mean, he's a little bit full of his fucking self in his own head, but we, the fan, are well aware of the ceiling of Edgar Berlanga.
Well, since he got the Canelo fight, you should see him on Twitter. He's acting like he is the A side, and telling all the people what they're going to get paid to fight him. I'm like, you didn't do shit versus Canelo. You haven't done shit your whole career, but yeah, I'm really just waiting for him to get just completely his head ripped off, and then we don't have to hear about him much anymore. And it's coming. Somebody's going to take him out. It's coming, and that'll be a really good day.
Yeah, I kind of envision a scenario kind of like when Danny Garcia knocked out Rod Salka. Just fucking asking for bring it on.
Build that wall.
That was a fucking great thing.
That's a bad idea to go to the south, go to the southern, the southwest, and then wear a stupid pair of build that wall, which, God. We're not going to get into politics, but come on, man.
Well, especially when you suck and you're going to lose.
Yeah. You have if you were really good, you kind of get to do shit like that. But when you are going to get knocked out anyway, you're just looking to get knocked out worse. I mean, he actually beat him up a little bit longer than he probably had to, just because he wore those stupid trunks.
Yeah, that was one of the rare moments of solidarity between Puerto Ricans and Mexicans. They're just picking on brown people. Fuck this fucking honky. But anyhow, joining us now, the man himself, the legend, Rappin' Rob Kelly. Rob, happy to have you here. We actually just finished.
It's fucking honky, and then he brings me in. That's
exactly.
Lovely, all right.
Well, there you go. But Yeah, you're used to being the only honky in a room. It's all good.
This is true. This is true, dog.
But anyhow, we just actually basically wrapped up that card. We got a couple maybe little undercards on or undercard fights on that last one to touch on. But why don't you give me your weekend wrap up here on what you saw, and we will move on forward.
Yeah, I mean, I saw pretty much the two bigger cards. So I saw the Keyshawn fight against Berinchyk, which fucking surprised me. So I've been holding back on my praise of Keyshawn, um, because he looked good, but I wasn't sure like if he's just going through the motions in some of the fights, and that he was showing that he was kind of like that he had everything, but it wasn't like putting it all together to make it come together and fucking really make you sit up and take notice. But I have to say that Berinchyk win really puts the fucking exclamation point on it for me now. The body work. I thought that was going to be a really tight fight. I thought Davis would win it, but I thought it'd be a tight fight. I thought there wouldn't be much to separate him for the first half of the fight. He was going to give him something to look at.
Yeah, there was going to be a
But
learning experience of sorts.
yeah, and then the guy was going to make it awkward. It was going to fucking have moments to overcome. Fuck that. Job done. Not getting paid for overtime. Down to the body. And he was actually making Berinchyk wince to the body after the third round. So he was fucking backpedaling. The finish, I don't like doing these comparisons with the fighters just because they're in the same camp, but he has got a lot of stuff that Crawford had, didn't he? Doesn't he, at lightweight, like, or super lightweight? Even the finish was kind of reminiscent, I think, of Bud Crawford's finish of Sean Porter. It was just, Bomac is obviously doing good work with this guy. He seems like he's the business. It doesn't seem like there's any challenge too big for him, and he's moving onwards and upwards. So hopefully, he can get him the bigger fights. But yeah, really, really good guy. And that was a fucking statement win, definitely. So hopefully that moves him definitely into the eye line of the promoters who are making these bigger fights and unifications, and that he doesn't get left out. I don't think he will. I think his star power is building a little bit, and there's no kind of networks or promoters that are going to be trying to box this guy out now. It's going to be get him in on the unification train. So that was good. Really, really good finish. Good win. That's what you want to see. Action. You don't get paid for overtime, and the guy who's highly touted get the job done in emphatic style. So you want to see that. That was really good. The Catterall Barboza fight. I think you probably had that one on the money, but you pretty much predicted it down to the T, apart from the result, because you thought that Catterall would get a stinker maybe, and it was looking like that way. I thought Catterall would get the nod on the cards. I don't. It was close enough fight. I think you could call that a knockdown. I know the ref was quick to say it was a slip or if there was a coming together of the feet, but it looked to me like the shot sent him over. So even if he's off balance and a shot, if you're off balance and a shot hits you on the way down, that's a knockdown. Ref made the call in the moment, and I don't think it's too controversial. I think Catterall knew he lost the fight. Thought the southpaw style didn't work for him last night. Catterall's a guy. He's a southpaw, but he's kind of he holds the lead hand a little bit low. He doesn't necessarily fence for position a lot of the time, and I thought he was struggling to get the backhand off. And Barboza was just working him. So yeah, I thought probably the worthy winner in that fight. It was a close enough fight. It was a boring enough fucking fight as well where we're at it. But I said to you before, I don't really know where Catterall is. I know he has Josh Taylor's number, but in the other fights, well, he's looked okay and got the job done. I don't really know if he's world level, and I'd say I kind of on that opinion still after looking at that fight last night. I think he has to go back to the drawing board. I like him. I think he's a good kid. I think he does a lot of stuff technically well. He's a really good fighter, but I just don't know if he has that next level potential. So in tight fights like that, you want to see the right guy get the win. So it wasn't too controversial, and I think Catterall knew Barboza just had a better night on the night.
Yeah, it not a common fight to, kind of when it comes to how close it was to get on the card away from home, though. I think most people probably thought Barboza won the fight, but you're not going to get that fight on when you're not the home fighter more often than not. So that was
yeah. I think we were expecting. I think most of Twitter and everything as well was expecting Catterall to get the decision in real time. But glad that Barboza got the nod because I thought he did win it.
No thoughts on the Irish Mexican?
Who's this now? Oh, Gomez Jr. and
Bilotti.
Yeah, I think he's game, isn't he? He's chip off the old block. Like he comes to fight. I don't have any problem with the stoppage. I think Much for bad, and Bellotti was getting on top of him. So I don't really have a problem with the stoppage, but I can see why he doesn't want to fucking he doesn't want the corner or the ref to stop the fight. I totally get it, but yeah, I thought Bellotti was the better guy. Like, massive fan of the father I was, by the way. Oh, Michael Gomez Senior. Oh my God, what a fucking guy! Like, unbelievable action, all action, mad life. They did a biopic on Michael Gomez, and it had some of the actors from the TV show Emmerdale here in it. I think one of the main guys in it. But whatever, it was filmed, but I don't know if they ever got over the line in terms of funding to finish it. But there was a trailer released, and his life story is made for the big screen. So it's a pity that one didn't get made. But I hope he's doing well, Michael Gomez Senior, and Junior could come again.
Yeah, his level is obviously just a little bit below the domestic title level, it seems. But maybe move up a division. Folks did say he looked drawn there. Daniel DeRossi dropping us a tenner in there and says, the podcast is better than ever, guys. Appreciate what y'all do. Thank you very much, Danielle. I appreciate that. And thank you so much to you. God bless you. Very much appreciated from those folks at the asylum. We're doing our best, and good news. Mr. Wellington and myself have been discussing a few things, and we think we're going to try to start doing the Bellew of the Week on a monthly basis now, and making that the whole thing happen. So stay tuned for that. That's optimistic on that. We were on the same page without even having discussed it. So that sounds good. It's a good start. But let's see here. Also on real quick on that DAZN card from the other night, Kenneth Sims Jr. was having his way with Kendo Castaneda, and it ended up a little bit closer down the stretch than I'm sure he wanted it to be. Castaneda looking all right, pouring it on at times. Sims, he's still looking for the right opportunity. I don't know if he'll ever really find it. His level is not quite high enough for what his intended reach is. Joel Iriarte taking out Daryl Harris. No big work for him there. He continues to look good. I believe he is 5-0 or 6-0 with 6 stoppages. So that's a welterweight to keep your eyes on. Any final thoughts on that card there, Justin? I don't know who saw that one.
No,
I don't know.
We talked about the Sandoval Henderson fight. That was.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot about that one. Yeah,
that was
12-pound fight. That was all right. That little Henderson dude.
He's a little dude, isn't he?
If that motherfucker would cut off his dreads, he could be a minimum weight instead of fighting 112 pounders when he's weighing in 107.
God, he looked that. I know we've seen little boxers, but he had to be one of the smallest guys I've ever seen. Like he didn't even. His head was like at the second turnbuckle. That's how tall he was. He was a little guy, but he had some. I mean, he was slick. He had some moves, but Sandoval, he hadn't fought in a year, and I think he was just a little rusty. But it was interesting. But yeah, that was. I think the commentary talked for like 10 minutes about his hair, which is like, you're right. He probably has to lose extra weight just because of the hair to get down to where he was. But I think they said that he come in like 6 pounds under the weight. Anyway,
107. He came in
for a
112-pound fight.
He
could be a minimum weight. Cut off your hair.
Yeah, he might as well, because he could probably be a champion in the minimum weight. He has that kind of slick style.
Not with that fucking Puerto Rican Oscar Collazo running.
Yeah.
Oscar Collazo, that's a real one. As far as it goes, someone who is also a real one. That would be Mr. Eamon Khan of Seconds Out. Eamon, how are you doing, my friend? What's shaking? What'd you think of the action this weekend?
From what I caught, I was at Catterall Barboza, and I watched a little bit of Jared Anderson's not so great performance against Kalios.
All the shit you watched, you chose that?
Yeah, well, that's because I thought that might have been an opportunity for his opponent to get the victory over him, but apart from his, I guess we all thought we were in for a good fight, but we had our pants pulled down. because his pants were falling down.
Yeah.
No,
I didn't
No.
watch the fight. I avoided it. I just heard it was
Oh.
shit. So
It was shit.
All
And
right.
that's what, and you need to pull the pants down if you go to do it. It doesn't matter. Catterall versus Barboza. I thought Barboza probably edged it. Yeah, a little bit. I see a lot of people like split on that knockdown, whether it was a knockdown or not. I called it straight away that I thought wasn't a knockdown, but a lot of people seem to feel that there was enough there to maybe have called it that way. But I think
it wasn't a
Catterall's
blatantly missed call. It was kind of a toss up and probably based on the ref's angle more than anything. And I don't know that you can get upset either way. I think that's a ref's discretion kind of call, right?
But I think Catterall and his team sort of knew anyways that they probably didn't deserve the victory, or at least Catterall just didn't do enough in the mid rounds and let Barboza in. I thought he got caught a lot more cleanly than they had been in previous fights before. And for Barboza, who look that McComb fight, the blueprint was kind of laid out. Jack doesn't fight that sort of way, but I just felt like he didn't take anything from that and added parts of that into his game plan for the fight, and he just kind of went out a little bit without a little determination or ambition to just kind of go for it. That might largely be due to the weight. We were kind of hearing little whispers as to if there were some problems. Nothing got really confirmed, but it was just that Jack wasn't doing a lot of media in the build up to the fight week. I think that was explained as he'd done a lot in the weeks prior, so just wanted to slip off and get everything all checked in order. But then also put into the mix that the weigh-in was at 5 p.m. as opposed to usually when it's around midday. Ceremonial by all means, and I think Eddie was asked as well, and he said that there was a little bit of a issue with the scale, so maybe Jack might have been off weight a little bit, but made it in the end. The weigh-in being later on might have just been a coincidence, as they wanted to get people into the building, and 5 is obviously after people finish their shift. So, but either way, then I think Jack's time at this weight is under serious consideration, whether he stays here now that the distance to get into a title comes a little bit longer, or he tries to, or he sacrifices his position here, moves up to welterweight and has another go there where he has a rival already in the waiting in the form of Josh Taylor, who's moved up as well. I just think that Jack needs to. His style is good. I thought his style might take him to a world title. It should have taken him to a world title and undisputed against Josh Taylor, but it didn't. And I think he's got to kind of just reassess a little bit. He's got a good team, good training setup as well. I think he's capable. Just got to work on a few things, a little more aggression from him, and he'll get back on track. Elsewhere on the undercard, I thought, look, Robbie Davis Jr. I think I saw Crawler get a lot of plaudits online for pulling him out. I'm not trying to dig at Anthony, but I thought Robbie Davis should have been pulled out a few rounds earlier than that. I didn't really need to see anything more because nothing more came from Robbie afterwards. He's a proud guy. He didn't want to be pulled out, I'm sure.
As I expressed, I mean, when you're getting roughed up by Lipinets, who doesn't have much left in him, I thought the writing was on the wall before that first bell rang.
Oh, absolutely. Like we all thought that. We all in the discussions that I had with my colleagues in the media, we thought there might be 2 retirements this weekend. Boy, did we get one wrong, but I'll get that stat in a moment. But Robbie was a lot more kind of certain, and you never want to write a fighter off before they get in the ring, but the trajectory kind of said enough about it. And when you're in at that level, having been higher up the chain, you know that this is your last throw of it. And he didn't have much to throw. He didn't want to pull the trigger in front of a younger, fresher man. And thankfully, he wasn't spared anything more than what he had, because Robbie's a good guy. So congratulations to him on a good career, and marches on Pat McCormack does. Yeah, I completely got wrong. Jazz Dickens, I thought Zelfa Barrett would have enough to beat Jazza, but Jazza just boxed completely down to a T. Didn't wilt under any pressure, a higher weight where you'd think Zelfa would impose his weight and impose the power, but he wasn't able to land that left hook that he has in the fight. And with Zelfa, I get a little bit frustrated with his performances because you always feel like there's other extra gear from him, and he always just kind of wins his fights by maybe a round or two and gives the other opponent just room to have their successes. And you just feel like this guy, surely he does have another gear, but he's never shown it so far. I still feel like there's more from him. Again, he let this one slip, and he knew it as well. And Jazza was just brilliant on the night, so he got to stick up his two fingers to the bookies and people like myself who have called him as the one who'd be on the end of a loss. Stick his fingers up to us, and he marches on as well too. So fair play to him. What else did I see? I didn't see anything else. Oh no, I tell a lie. I saw Reece Bellotti versus Michael Gomez Jr. Didn't quite fully catch fire in the arena, but was still a good, really watchable fight. Michael Gomez Jr.'s problem was he just shifted way too many body shots in the early rounds, and it paid dividends later on in the fight. He did really well to recover from the first two and to continue until the corner pulled him out of the fight, and he was obviously pissed the corner did do that. But you could see what they were going for because Reece looked sprightly up until about the third and fourth, where Gomez's pressure looked like it was starting to tell on Reece, and he started just chipping away a little bit. He cut him on his eye as well. I think it might be a clash of heads, but I think that paid a toll as well too. And he was just starting to find a few punches where Reece looked like he was the tank was depleting a little bit. But because of what the work that Reece put in early, I think that got him through to the end, and he was a worthy winner on the night. So that was a good fight. I was expecting it to maybe be a bit more of a rock'em sock'em type of thing. It didn't quite turn into that, but was still a good watch. And I think that was about everything that I remember seeing from the night.
Excellent. Well, yeah, it seems like we caught a little bit there. Dez was in here, and then he was out of here. Then Rob was in here, then he was out of here, then he was in here. It's
fuck him.
Crazy watching the bottom of this screen for the last few minutes. It's been absolutely maddening. But here we are with a panel of four and a host that everybody adores.
You're looking at her at all. Fuck's sake.
Anyhow, so we let's see here. We had a couple of questions that came up in the chat there. Let's see here. Our good friend Mr. Liam Wynn.
Hey, Matty, have you seen this question? Sorry to intrude. It's come from Holly.
I saw that question. I will get to it.
Go on. All right.
I will get to it. All right. So this question, I was going to do it as anonymous too. So in case her friend,
you can still do it.
How do you?
It was a different question.
So anyhow, let's see here. Imaginary catch weight where all sums were equal. Andre Ward versus Usyk. Who wins and how? That's an interesting question. I'm just going to throw out there. I think that Usyk wins it because his footwork is a little bit more clever, and Ward coming in head down. I just think Usyk being a little bit more shifty would be kind of, I wouldn't say kryptonite for Ward. I think it'd be a close as shit fight, but I think Usyk takes it. Let's go with Rob on this one. Rob, what do you think on that fictional fight? Imaginary catchweight where all sums were equal. Ward versus Usyk. Who wins and how?
You can't have a fucking catchweight where all sums are equal. That's problem number one with that question. Let me get to this problem number two. I really don't know what weight it looks like. So you're looking at Ward was a 68 pounder, wasn't he really? 68 pounder anyway. Well, he was 75 in the amateurs, but he's fought most of his career 68 pounds. I think he had 3 maybe fights at heavyweight, 3 or 4. Was that it?
I think just
maybe
the
2
two
warm-ups.
fights against. I think just the 2 fights at light heavyweight. Just
was there not a couple of? Was there not 2 warm-ups against? No, maybe not. So his whole career.
No, he dragged Chad Dawson's ass down to 168. Remember?
There was a catchweight in there. There was a catchweight in there. I think was it Paul Smith?
Oh yeah, that's right. There was a Paul Smith. Well, that was because Paul Smith couldn't make the fucking weight, wasn't it? And he just
water retention.
Ward decided he wasn't going to fucking take any of his purse. He let him keep his full purse and just bet the shit out of him anyway. I don't know, man. I was a bit massive Andrew Ward fan. Loved the way he, in real time, you were able to watch him kind of defusing guys and just fucking he wasn't, the style wasn't flashy or easy on the eye, but he was a rough competitor on the inside. He was a highly skilled guy. He's fucking very hard to hit, like a slippery eel, deceptively strong on the inside. But I just can't imagine a fight between the two of these two, if that makes sense. I don't know what it looked like. Ward hasn't been active for a long, long time. I thought Ward maybe lost the first Kovalev fight, or there was maybe a round in it. But definitely 100% better fighter won the rematch, and he ruined Kovalev then for all intents and purposes after that. Like, Kovalev was never the same after those two fights with Andre Ward. And there was a lot of fellas who had a fight with Andre Ward that never really hit the heights after that. So he had that kind of Hopkins style where he'd take your soul a little bit in the ring. The Dawson fight, Dawson boiled himself down, because I remember Dawson called him out and then volunteered that he was going down to fight him, which was a bit of a fucking crazy move, because Dawson had all the currency at that time. Usyk master of fighting, that herky-jerky style, master of footwork, can punch himself, master of getting around the corner. I never really saw Ward having to deal with that style of fellas. Kind of that he even fought Eastern European guys and beat them, but not with that kind of Lomachenko style of, here, I'm will-o'-the-wisp, I'm here now, but I'm around the sides. And I don't know what it'd look like. Ward was very good at slowing fellas up to the body early with straight shots as well. I'm going to say it's a draw. I don't know, man. I can't imagine what the fight would look like, honestly. Just think Usyk is probably too big for him, even if they are having a catch weight. Usyk, bigger guy, probably Usyk. But two great fighters.
Justin, we know what you're thinking. No contest because of headbutts.
I mean, Kovalev beat him the first time they fought, so you got to look at that part. I don't know. This, like Rob said, this is I guess if you try to imagine taking like two robots and putting the skills of each guy into that, I don't know. I would say Usyk would beat Ward. I never thought I'd have anybody ask that question. Usyk versus Andre Ward. But yeah, I mean, I guess I would go Usyk. I just think, I don't know. That's like Rob said. This is just I would say Usyk. I mean, Andre Ward was incredible at what he did, but Usyk, I think, does more. I can do more. So I'm going to go with Usyk.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. Even equalizing things a little bit, like Ward's great. I mean, he's clearly a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no arguments with that one whatsoever. What he accomplished was great, but he did have a lot of things in his favor in the Super Six and things of that nature. And honestly, James, he can't even claim to be the best 168er in history. That's a man called Joe Calzaghe.
I'm not taking that bait, man. I think with that fight, I think Usyk has got just too much variety, hand speed. I think Rob said it, that Eastern European, Ukrainian dancing around the corner style, turning people inside out would probably be too much, man. And also, unless you punch him in the bollocks, you can't really put a dent in him, Usyk. So, yeah, I'd have to go with him on that. He's a very tough.
Andre Ward can do that, James.
yeah. On the blind side of the ref, classic. Yeah, but I think
for the job.
So yeah, I think Usyk, all things being considered, probably. But yeah, I don't know. I think Andre Ward would somehow make it. I don't know. Some of his fights were terrible, but other times, like the second Kovalev fight, was pretty entertaining. So I could only hope that Usyk drags that out of him a little bit more adventurousness.
All right, it seems
on
like
that, I still think we'll see Andre Ward back for one last payday. Do you know that?
You reckon?
I think he's one of those guys
Jake Paul, come on.
He's one of those guys that, in retirement, he's a pain in the arse, but he was a good fighter. You know that way. Like he's constantly posting clips of his old fights on Insta. I know all the fighters do that. Like they kind of can't let the times go. And he has his podcast and stuff, and he's an analyst and stuff. But I really liked him as a fighter, but he's hard to fucking. I don't know. He's hard, not that this has anything to do with how to fight a player, but he's hard to fucking take there or something, isn't he? Like
he's a bit preachy, I reckon. Like
yeah,
I don't know if that's just like forgive me, Matty and Justin. That's like a American evangelist type vibe. Like he gives off the vibe like he thinks he has all the answers to everything all the time, and he's quite smug about it.
Yeah, a
That
bit of
makes
that,
sense.
isn't it? Yeah, he's a bit of that.
I mean, he's not the first famous person from Oakland who goes that direction. I mean, MC Hammer ended up being a preacher.
It did.
Dude, yeah. And if
Well,
you
they
ever,
did.
Did he get kicked off ESPN, Andre Ward, or he just left?
he was when they did the contract restructuring and they're
Yeah,
trying
they
to
just
save money,
they just
he was
dumped
the
him.
guy out. Yeah, it was him or
Yeah.
Timmy, and they chose to keep Timmy.
You know what? Andre, he wasn't that great anyway on the commentary, so it didn't really matter.
I like Bradley personally. I get a kick out
Yeah.
of him. So let's see here. Seems like everyone's going Usyk here. Ames, any do you have anything different than what has been dropped already? Are you rolling Team Usyk against Ward?
No, I don't really have anything extra to offer than what's always been touched on. I would back Usyk as well over Andrew Ward. I think in that fight with Usyk, this apparent body shot weakness that he has at heavyweight is never. I mean, it's not truly been something that he's had to really think about because the heavyweights don't really go all that much to the body, and the size difference as well too means it's a lot more awkward than going for the head. He sort of gets away with ever finding out if there truly is this apparent weakness to the body. I think that's more of a factor against Andre Ward because of the size between the two of them. But outside of that, really, I feel the same way in that Kovalev beat Ward the first time and was low blowed the second time round. And I feel that Ward is very gettable when it comes to the highest level of talents at the elite level. That kind of showed for me that he was very beatable. I never really kind of backed the Ward train as well when he was in this pomp either, but I'm firmly on the Usyk one, so I'd go with Usyk.
All right. Yeah, I'll tell you, speaking of that, like the body work in Usyk, like I personally think that potentially the toughest fight for him at heavyweight is actually Ajit Kabayel, but that's just one man's opinion. We also had another question in there, and because we never know who's listening, for the purpose of anonymity, we're going to change this person's name. So one of our people in our fan club, we will just call her we'll call her Haley. Let's see here. She said, got a friend
Holly.
of mine. Got a friend of mine.
Was it Holly?
Haley.
Oh, I thought you said Holly.
Yeah, no, I said Haley.
Oh.
You're really tough at this. You would be like terrible on this, like in like witness protection program. Do you know that?
Ames is one of the people you say to him, "Don't look now," and he turns his head around. Oh.
You're supposed to roll the other way. So she says, got a friend of mine who's really sweet and was on about coming to mine and watches football and the boxing and knows little about either. She's basically invited herself to watch it, but has no interest and will likely spoil it. What the hell do I say to get out of it? Let's see here. My personal suggestion would be that you still invite her over, but you get really into it and you yell out expletives. And if she is able to get into it with you and enjoy that whole thing, then she's probably the type of person it'd be fun to watch sports with. But that's just me. Maybe somebody else might want to get rid of them. Rob, you're pretty good at getting rid of people. What would you do?
Well, I'm only good at I'm the king of the stop and chat avoidance, that way. So when you see someone, and they're slowing down, you know them, but you don't know them. You know them well enough to talk to them, but you're not in the mood to talk to them.
Yeah.
And they're slowing down as they see you, and they're like, "Hey, Rob, how are you?" You go, "Staying alive, man," and you just keep going. And before the time they have that figured out, then you're fucking already out. That way. I'm not sure that works if someone's due to come to your house. I suppose you could just say you're having woman's problems or something, because it's a woman, isn't it? You can say you're having woman's problems and you're not feeling good. Like, tonight's not a good night.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. James, would you go the direction of like claiming that someone in your family died or something like that, or do you think that might blow up in your face and they come to drop off a gift to make you feel better and they hear the screaming from inside your house as somebody gets knocked to the canvas?
Mate, what's going on here? Why are people asking the pod for relationship advice? What's happening?
This is more friends.
I think that could be a new segment, by the way. Ricky Gravel or any of the boys out there that are having relationship troubles, you want to fucking shoot a question in here? I can fucking deal with it for you.
We don't want to hear Gravel's relationship. We don't want to get into that.
Yeah, I got no take on that. You know, sorry.
Yeah, well, I think maybe being asked because I think the bulk of us are kind of recluses. Maybe some of you guys are more social than others. The amount of time I like to spend with people is limited at best.
I'm a bit in that boat too, Matty. I used to be a big one for having the fight parties at my house. And then, you know, back when it was pay-per-view days, like I used to pay for the event and then I'd have people over. But I had to stop doing that because fucking people start taking the piss then, like, you know what I mean? They get used to you just putting the fight on. They're like, hey, man, are you watching the fight this week? Yeah, I am, asshole. I'm going to pay for it. Why don't you do the fucking same and piss off and leave me alone? But now that the Fire Stick is in effect in most houses, you don't really have those fight parties as much, like. But yeah, I couldn't think of anything worse now than inviting a bunch of people over to my house to watch boxing. But back in the day, I used to love doing that, like.
There was a time. That time is not today. But anyhow, we wish you the best. But you never know. Maybe you'll find a new boxing friend if you invite her over and get into it the way that you like to get into the sport. But anyhow, we appreciate those questions.
I was thinking that in the lead up to it, this friend coming around, lady friend coming around, you could start pronouncing cities and names of people and accents of places that they're from. And then a few days before, you might ask her if she's going to take a shower before she comes over. And then, you know, maybe the day before, you might ask to see if she has any tattoos and tell her how powerful and strong her legs are. Once you start asking questions like that, you might find that ladies might not be too accustomed to wanting to be around you.
You tell her you want to come over and see Canelo fight, and it's in Guadalajara, Mexico.
Big of the Gareth.
There you go. Well, there you go. Amos's advice is: what if the Gad were a lesbian? Do that, and you will definitely dissuade people from wanting to hang out with you. So there you go. They're the voices of the peanut gallery today. But we have some previews to make here. Let's see here. We got an event. I love these Pro Box cards. They're getting to Saturdays. This one's not in Florida. Maybe their last Wednesday, the card of the year, but we'll see. Let's see here. What one's on there? Pretty interesting. We got 12-0-1 DeMichael Harris going in against 8-1-2 Anthony Cuba. Emiliano Moreno 11-0 taking on Cesar Francis, who's a heck of a good fighter at 13-2. Gabriel Flores Jr. and Jose Arellano are going to be going to war there. Arellano is from Aurora, Colorado, about 45 minutes from me, actually, originally from Mexico. So, yeah, we got that. And hopefully they also have this 5-0, 3-0 battle on there as well at super flyweight between Andrew Rodriguez and Kevin Saltoro. That Flores and Jose Arellano fight could be good because Flores kind of likes to fight like he's a puncher, even though he's not. So, yeah, looking forward to that one Wednesday from Pro Box. But obviously the best card that we have going here, and one of the best cards that I've seen on paper in my time watching boxing, is going to be from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. That's going to be on Saturday the 22nd. Available on DAZN pay-per-view or available on Fire Sticks everywhere. But anyhow, it's going to be big. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. And I think we're going to spend a bit of time talking about each of these fights because I think the bulk of them are fairly interesting, maybe save a couple. Let's start with this one. I really like this heavyweight battle here. Zhilei Zhang against Ajit Caballel. Caballel just a slight favorite in this fight. Zhang has some huge knockouts on his record. That knockout of Wilder was absolutely vicious. But Caballel, very good at getting on the inside, very good body puncher. Zhang, not a young man anymore. What are your thoughts going into this fight? Let's see. Who did we lose there? Oh, we lost Ames. What are your thoughts going into this fight, Rob?
Sorry, dude. Which fight is this?
Zhilei Zhang against Ajit Caballel.
Oh, yeah, really good fight. I think Zhang's going to have too much for Caballero. I don't think his recent loss to Parker is an indicator that Caballero can get to him. Maybe he's a very big puncher, isn't he? Reputedly a very big puncher. But I think Zhang will kind of sit on him and break him down. He'll probably go late, around 10, something like this. I just
I
think
don't know about that
Zhang's
because
too much.
Zhang doesn't seem to have much juice in the later rounds, Rob. I think if he's going to get to Caballero, it'll probably be in the first 6 or 7.
Maybe, I could see that happening too. I just think he's going to be, frame wise and everything, I think he's just going to be too big. Lie on him, break him down, sap the energy from him, and stop him later in the fight. Like,
Man, that interesting. I just think in that position, I think Caballero's going to let loose to the body. What do you think, Justin?
I'm kind of with you. I think basically if Caballero avoids the big shot, he wins because I think he'll just have more energy and he's a better boxer. And he's just going to, and Zhang, I don't know, Big Bang, if he lands, I think you said the first 4 rounds, he's going to look for that shot. And then after that, I think he's going to start slowing. And I think Caballero can just outwork him because he can easily be outworked if he can't land the big shot. So I'm going to lean towards Caballero, probably a decision, but because if Big Bang don't get him in the first 6, then Caballero win a decision. That's how I see it. He's got to get him early because he's already had respiratory problems, and he just I think he has to get him a little bit earlier. I don't think if it goes 9, 10, 12 that he's still going to carry that same power in the 10th, 11th round. And also, Caballero's not a world beater either. I think he's just a better boxer, and that might just be the difference. But I kind of want to see Zhang win. I hope he wins because that means he knocked him out. That'll be something to talk about. Because Zhang's not going to. I don't think Zhang will win a decision. If he beats him, he's going to stop him. And I think that's going to be one of those fights you're just waiting to see if he can land the shot. So it'll be a good fight. All these fights are good, actually.
Yeah, it's really an exceptional card. I think maybe one of the weakest fights on here, and that's just because there's so much unknown as far as it goes with what is left with Callum Smith. But Joshua Buatsi versus Callum Smith might be the weakest fight on this entire card. And I still don't know that that's a bad fight, James, because Buatsi, it's kind of been a slow grind getting here, but he needs some sort of a name on the resume to move forward. And he should have too much for Callum Smith. But what do you think? Will experience play here?
I actually like Callum Smith in this fight. I mean, say what you like about his performances when he stepped up to the very highest level against Canelo and Beterbiev. At least Callum Smith has taken those chances, and even if he did keep his hands in his pockets for both fights, he's had that experience, and he dared to at least step onto the stage and give himself half a chance. With Buatsi, whether it's through mismanagement or his own choice, he's been consistently underwhelming as a professional. So you have to mess up to not build on the kind of momentum that he had coming out of the Olympics. Like he was a shock and he was knocking people out, and that was like the perfect platform. And he hasn't really built on that, to be honest with you. I mean, with the exception, ironically, of his last fight against Hutchinson on the Dubois card last year, his fights don't really set the pulse racing. I don't think he's outstanding in any one area. He's just a really competent, capable fighter, but he's unadventurous, both in the opponents that he chooses and the style that he fights in. I think Callum Smith, even if he fight. I remember when he first burst onto the scene, and he was marketed as kind of like the Riddick Bowe intrigue of this big man who can fight inside, and I feel that's been to his detriment a lot of the time because he gives up a lot of those natural advantages that he has. I mean, he's a gigantic super middleweight, and he's still a pretty big light heavyweight, and he still chooses to get in close and try and look for hooks to the body and to the head. And I feel like his left hook, especially when he throws it after he catches a punch, I feel like that's a pretty devastating weapon when he deploys it in the right way. So I like him in this fight. I don't really see what Buatsi does to kind of open him up. I don't see the advantages that he has, to be honest.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, is what Buatsi has on his side is probably going to be youth, and I think maybe a physical strength advantage, but not a power advantage. But because Smith has a pretty wicked left hand, so I don't know. God, it's made me a little bit more interested in that fight than I was just a moment ago. But again, like I said, it's probably the weakest fight on this card, and it's still not a bad fight whatsoever, honestly. So yeah, looking forward. Now I'm looking forward to that one a little bit there. That's how you sell a fucking fight, damn it. Let's see here. Let's go to this one now. Justin, Carlos Adames against Hamza Shiraz. This fight right here, Adames having a hard time getting into the country at first. Hopefully everything was resolved on that end and he was able to get there in time to acclimate, because this is a really tough fight for him. I think that Shiraz is he's very sharp in what he does. And, maybe the absolute ruggedness that Adames can fight with it does the trick. But unfortunately for him, I think he's been trying to fight in a more polished style lately, which is probably not the way to go when you have a fighter who throws them straight, throws them technically correct. I think he's going to have to get rough, going to have to get dirty if he's going to keep his title against this young upstart.
Yeah, Adames has to kind of, I wouldn't say old man him, but that kind of style, like you just said, because Adames is not that good. This is the perfect guy for Shiraz to break out versus
middleweight division. Man.
Yeah, this is the perfect guy that you would. This is the guy you choose to break out and win your first title, because Adames in a weak division probably is the weakest champion. And so this is the guy you pick on. And Adames, I think you summed it up perfectly. He's got to make it nasty. I mean, we're talking about a couple of headbutts, some throw your shoulder in there a little bit. He's got to make it dirty, because Shiraz has never been in a fight like that. He's never had a guy take him that, and that's what he has to do, because if he tries to box him and all that, he's just going to get picked apart. He, like you said, he has to old man him. He has to do some shady shit, because if he just stands back and tries to go 1-2 with him, Shiraz just going to pepper him, and it's going to be quick and easy. So, but I imagine Adames is going to change his style up a little bit. You'd have to think they know that he's not going to come out there and outbox him and outwork him. But Shiraz, this is it. This is his big stage that they've been looking for, and I think he's going to knock Adames out. I don't think it's going to be like the first few rounds, but I think he's going to stop him 7th, 8th round, and he's going to put him away, and that'll be like his "this is who I am now" kind of thing. But I think he's definitely going to stop him, in my opinion, because I don't think Adames he's just not any good. I'm like, even in a decent middleweight division a few years ago, Adames is not even a top 10 guy, in my opinion. So I think Shiraz definitely stops him.
Yeah, we're in a middleweight division where him versus Terrell Gaucher was a title fight. It's stupid, right? It's stupid. Yeah, so that one, maybe that's the weakest fight on the card. I don't know. Let's keep going here. Let's see here, and then let's go to. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna go to James with this one, because I know where I want to start with the next one. Virgil Ortiz against Israel Madrimov with a vacant WBC belt on the line. This one is an interesting fight, with Ortiz winning his last fight narrowly, with having to get off the canvas to do it. Madrimov losing to Terrence Crawford also narrowly in what was a very close fight, and probably the only thing that kept him from having a real claim on the scorecards was his general inactivity. This is a hot middleweight or a junior middleweight fight. I'm really looking forward to this one, James. What are your thoughts on this one? Do you think Madrimov can turn it into a chess match, or do you think you see war?
Well, the last Ortiz fight was an absolute war. So he's definitely, if he's not the most technically adept, he's very he's very game, and he's got a good engine, and he throws a lot, and he's tough, and he's willing to get up off the canvas, so that counts for a lot. Now with Madrimov, the first time I seen him was when he beat was it Kurbanov on one of these Saudi undercards.
Yeah.
And Madrimov actually reminds me a lot of Golovkin. Like, he hasn't got the same concussive power, but more in his demeanor and the way he moves in close distance and hand position and little things like that. I think stylistically there's a lot of similarities there. If you lose to Terence Crawford, no one can really hold that against you, and it was a close fight as well. So I like Madrimov in this fight, like a bit of a technical beatdown, because I feel like he could definitely prise open some of the gaps in Ortiz's defense. And there's only so much you can do with activity when you're against one of those kind of Eastern European guys who are well schooled and willing to stand in there with you and can hit hard enough as well. It's a long night's work, and I think Madrimov's style is the perfect antidote to Ortiz's style.
Yeah, it's all a matter if he can move around a little bit, not stand in front of Ortiz, because Ortiz is really dangerous if you sit in front of him. Rob, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Really like Madrimov. I like Ortiz too. I never really been fully convinced that he's the real deal. And what the real deal means, I don't know these days, because you can still win multiple world titles in multiple weight classes and still not be the real deal to me. But I just don't think he's at the same level as Madrimov. I think, like what the guy said, Madrimov's too technical. He ran Terence Crawford really close in his fight, to the point where I think he carries a real dig as well, because it's the first guy I actually saw Crawford a little bit hesitant with since Benavidez, his little brother, and maybe the guy, the Olympian guy with the long Eastern European name, I can't remember his name now, Cavaleska Sosa, that gave him a close call. I think Madrimov is a supreme talent, and I think, I think I'd echo that. I think he's going to pick Ortiz apart. I think he's just going to be too technical, too good on the counter, too strong on the inside, and I think he might even get the stoppage over Ortiz. I think he might floor him a few times. So yeah, I'm going to go Madrimov stoppage.
Interesting.
In a good fight.
Yeah, right on. Madrimov stoppage. Justin, what are your leans on this one?
I'm with Rob Radjarov. I don't know about the stoppage, but Ortiz, ever since, he's just another guy that the whole can't make weight, the whole keep getting sick, his career has just bombed. And so I agree. I think Madrimov gets him. I think he's just better. And who knows what Ortiz is health-wise either. Who knows what he's going to be when he weighs in. Who knows what he's got going on. There's always something, it seems like, in his corner and his life. So, yeah, I don't know about the stoppage, but I think Madrimov probably like a 116, 112.
Madrimov 116, 112. All right. Yeah, on that one, I'm a little bit torn on that one. I haven't been able to really make a pick on that one. And you're right. When it comes to Ortiz and repeatedly trying to make that 147-pound limit for the fight with Stanionis, it got pretty ridiculous at times, unfortunately. So we will see if it goes well for him this time. But I do think 154 is a better division for him. But yeah, he was getting dropped in his last fight. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see here. We'll go to Rob on this one. You got your boy Shakur Stevenson taking on Floyd Schofield. We were kind of hoping for William Zepeda, but Zepeda had that rough fight with Tevin Farmer, hurt his hand in the process. They're having a rematch. I think this fight is a little bit more interesting than people are giving it credit for, Rob. Folks think that Stevenson is just going to walk through guys. I've seen a lot that I like from Schofield to say that he's got a decent ring IQ. He's young, he's athletic, he's a good puncher. And I've seen him keep his cool in a fight where somebody was being very, very dirty. So it's going to be tough for Shakur to get in his head and take away his heart through clever boxing. What do you think on this one? Do you think this is a Shakur 120, 108? Or do you think that, I'm thinking 116, 112? Where are you leaning?
I think if Schofield gets hold of a kid, it could get dirty. I think Shakur Stevenson, he needs a guy like this to probably bring out the best in him. I think when it's too comfortable for him, he's not much of a big puncher, so he has obviously his go-to conservative style. So he goes back to form, doesn't he, when things get uncomfortable in the ring for him, and he just boxes and he just does enough to win. And I think Schofield is going to pressure the distance on him, which is easier to do with Shakur Stevenson than easier said than done, rather, because his feet are extremely good. The one weakness Shakur has is that he can't punch Certainly not up the weight. So all this promises of emphatic finishes, and we were finally going to see the best of Shakur, and he was going to do this and that. He just repeatedly stinks the joint out, no matter how good he is. He's not in any way exciting as guys who've navigated those weight classes before to become stars, like a Floyd Mayweather, like a Bud Crawford, like a Chavez. He hasn't got that kind of, and he's not as good as like a Parnell either, where he's able to get away with his skills. He's able to get away with it because his footwork is so good, and to this point, he hasn't faced much resistance. I can see why he's in the Who Wants Some club, and that you could see him technically being so much better than some of the guys who make so much more money than him, that they won't want to fight him because he'll make him look bad. But that doesn't mean he's going to look good while doing it. So, and I think that's the main gripe from boxing fans with Shakur Stevenson, and the fact that he's a mouthy get on Twitter and that as well. Like, he's a pain in the arse, isn't he? Like, he's he's like a little chihuahua or something, isn't he? He just never stops fucking chirping online. So he's annoying, he's irritating, but he's a hell of a fighter. Floyd Mayweather voice. And I see him having the edge here on Schofield, I think. And look, I hope for the sake of boxing that he actually lets loose and he throws the kitchen sink at Schofield and tries to get a stoppage, because that would put his stock up there and that would make people excited about wanting to see a Shakur Stevenson fight. I mean, Cameron and Mace broke it down on the It Is What It Is podcast better than anyone could say it. Like, they were like, don't be getting mad at us because people are booing you. There, you had to fight in Jersey. Jersey's your home city. Your home city was booing you. It's not just us. Like, everybody that watches the fights thinks you're boring. That's what it is. Like, and you can say they don't appreciate a technical style. I love a technical style to a degree, but you have to fucking put asses in seats. That's the name of the game. Like, you have to deliver entertainment when you're a top level fighter. That's what people pay for. Don't pay for a skill competition. They pay for blood and guts and entertainment. So yeah, I don't know. He's irritating. He doesn't help himself. I think the best way for Shakur Stevenson to help himself is to actually deliver um a really, really emphatic stoppage win somewhere along the line to boost his stock. And he's gonna need that, or else he's just gonna fucking face longer delays to get the fights that he really wants. So he's gonna have to, I think, take some risks against Schofield. And maybe Schofield gets to him, maybe makes it ugly, maybe there's a couple of low blows in there, maybe he wrestles him to the ground, maybe he catches him a little bit, makes him pay attention. But we definitely need to see something more from Shakur at this stage of his career to keep us interested.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, he's obviously tremendously skilled, but it's not going to do it for everybody, and you have to generate revenue in order to command high purses. So for him to get the fights he wants, Shakur is kind of stuck in this place of being A side talented, but ultimately going to be a B side in the big events unless he can really show out at some point in time. Well, what are you thinking on this fight, Justin?
Well, I think, like Rob said, like, Shakur is trying to fight like Floyd Money Mayweather at this age when he should be fighting like Pretty Boy.
Yeah.
And that's what gets you the money, and that's what gets the people not booing you in your hometown. And then you work your way up to maybe down the road when you get a little bit older fighting that style. But he's come out the gate fighting like that, and nobody cares. I mean, it's just Schofield. This is going to be a boring.
People appreciate that style, Justin. When you are outsized by 4 or 5 inches in height,
Yes.
the guy in the ring, he's rehydrating 12, 15, 20 pounds more than you are. And people are like, this dude is going to have to box and move. And every moment is like, man, I hope if he gets caught, he's in trouble. That's the moment when people get behind that style, when it's absolute necessity. It's not necessity for him.
And also, it's a bad look when, like Rob said, you're on Twitter talking about how bad you are and how good you are, and then you're just so boring and you're just getting along with it. That doesn't. His boxing doesn't back up his mouth, and it kind of puts a sour taste in your mouth because you're like, well, this is it. You've talked so much trash, and this is not fun to watch. And he's going to beat Schofield. It's going to be a terrible fight. I think it's going to be a boring fight. I don't think it's going to be exciting at all because I don't think Schofield has enough to make Shakur have to really open up and fight, like really go into another gear too much. I think it'll be interesting. I think Schofield will win some rounds. I just don't think it's going to be that exciting. But no, Shakur.
I think Shakur, he reminds me of one of these guys that he doesn't listen to anybody. I
Yeah.
think he might be surrounded by yes men. He spends a lot of time with Andre Ward and Terence Crawford. But even on the last fight, you could see them in the dressing room. There's a clip, and they're saying to him, like, look, you know, he was like, no, I was trying to knock him out, but then my hand or such and something. They were like, no, but you got it. There's times you got to just fucking step on it, like. And he was like, I know, but like, it's like he's saying, yeah, but he's just not really listening to him. And both of them were giving him the same. Like, there's times you have to bite down, like, you have to force it. You have to force the stoppage. Those times come, like, and
Some
you have
people
to
just
see them. You have to take them. So he just
some
doesn't have. I
people
think, like,
some people don't have that though. Some people just
but is he
don't
hiding
have it in
grass?
them. Yeah,
Is
he
he
might.
hiding
There's something
grass?
there. Because the only person he ever knocked out was that person in the parking garage. When he, yeah,
And
that's
even
it.
that
That's
was a
it.
struggle. He had to go. He
Yeah,
had to punch
yeah,
down that,
that's
like,
it.
didn't he? Like,
Some people you meet people in life. Some people just don't have the dog in them. They just don't have it, regardless of what that may be. Maybe he's just one of these guys that even pushing him and prodding him, he just doesn't have that. I want to
yeah, I think
risk it. I want to risk it
it
thing. He just
appears
don't
to
have it.
be that way, doesn't it? It appears to be
Yeah.
that way because even with great fighters that have come before, you can, even when when they're in the moments that lead up to their big test, you can see in certain instances, oh, this guy's a killer. Oh, this guy's just way too good for everybody else that he's in with. But they have something like that X factor. He just doesn't have it, like, doesn't he? He's missing the X factor. That's what it is.
And I believe if somebody does get him in a dogfight, he'll fold. I believe if somebody
Could
really
totally
puts it
see
on
that.
him, I think he'll quit. I think he'll just stop
They can
because
pin him down. If they can pin
yeah,
him down.
if they can hurt him and really get after him, he'll quit.
I actually said that years ago on the pod when he was turning over because I thought he was just so petulant at times. I think if you get in his head and you really fucking rattle him, I think if you could, like, say if he meets that Maidana-esque opponent, right? That's like, fuck your fucking foot movement, fuck your fucking. Here comes some looping shots over the top that you can't see. Here I'm going to push you to the ropes and hit you in the balls. And here's me head in your chest.
Or
for fucking,
Javante Davis. Javante Davis is the guy that would do that to him.
Yeah,
that would do exactly the same thing, and I think he'd quit. I think Davis would get him to quit, or he'd knock him out.
I think he could win 11 rounds and fucking 2 minutes and 30 seconds of a 12-round fight against Davis, and eventually when he touches him, it'll be over. Like,
yeah,
possibly so. I don't know. Are you giving Schofield any chance, James? The panel seems to say no. Is Schofield the guy to finally make this man work?
I've not seen enough of Schofield to make a prediction, but to be honest with you, I don't particularly look forward to Shakur Stevenson's fights, even though I know how good he is. When I do watch him, technically, he's really, he's a smooth. He's more than a capable boxer. He's like, his ability is like the elite level, but I'm not really that bothered about watching him fight, and it speaks to what the lads are talking about here. It's a lack of adventurousness, I think. Content to play it safe. I'm not aware of what he says online or whatever, so he doesn't annoy me on that level. But anytime I do see him fight, as impressive as he is, he's also underwhelming, which is, a bit of a backhanded compliment. But, you can't change your temperament. And if he continues to win fights, you can only see his value increasing, really. If he's not going through the ultra entertaining pretty boy Floyd phase, if he makes it to 35-0, then that's marketable. And the more headlines he gets, the more attention he gets. Like, he'll probably just fight more the same way, because where's the incentive to change if you continue to be successful?
True. Well, people do forget that the crowd started walking out during Mayweather's fight with Carlos Baldomir.
talk about pretty boy. I think the definition of when he was doing what he had to do to make the money was, do y'all remember when he had his homecoming fight in Michigan versus Jesus Chavez? And Chavez was a champion, a ranked guy, and he had his homecoming fight. He didn't get booed because he beat the crap out of him. And look at Shakur Stevenson in his homecoming fight, he gets booed. That's the difference. Mayweather, when you have your home crowd and you're so much more skilled than the guy, you have to impress if you want to get to that next level. And that's just what he hasn't done.
Yeah, but Floyd had that meanness, didn't he? If you watch like a young Floyd Mayweather, he's a vicious fighter,
Yeah, he gave Chavez no chance. He just worked him, and that's what you have to do.
I mean, look what he did to Gatti. You know, that was criminal. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, he was vicious at those lower weights. So, you know, I'm not sure if it's a fair comparison because
Corrales too. Corrales.
Yeah, exactly. That was
Corrales.
outrageous, man. So yeah, if Stevenson isn't showing that now when he's in the prime of his life, and his legs are never going to get any more springy, if you know what I mean. So if he's not doing it now, he's never going to do it unless he does like the Rigondo curveball, where all of a sudden he's getting into wars late in his career.
But Rigo even had and I was the biggest fucking Rigo fanboy there is, and I hated fucking when he used to let me down. I'd be like, yeah, but I'd be telling everyone about him. Right, see this guy, man, he's fucking going to go 2 gold medals for Olympics. He's a southpaw. He can fucking stand right in front of you, and you miss him, and he rehearses the shots, and then he throws them after he rehearses them. And I would be like bigging this guy up, right, and then
they'd be like, if I wanted to see a senior Cuban walk around, I'd take a trip to Havana.
yeah, like just. And he was like, they could have, I think Aaron definitely dropped the ball on Rigo as well, but Rigo didn't help himself, because he was such a fucking interesting character. I mean, you go back to the Jonathan Butler who used to come on the pod, who actually spent some time with him. Like, he had melted down his fucking Olympic gold medal to make gold teeth and all. He was just and he had a punch that would fucking take your jaw off, but he just didn't throw it. Like, his style was, you throw, I make you miss, and then I throw. But if you don't throw, I won't throw either. He stunk out the joint so many different times. But like you said, you said when he went on, suddenly ended up in wars. My favorite one is the one when he went to Japan. Like, he was fighting the big giant that he managed to stop him late on. But I think if Shakur was fighting a similar opponent, I think number one, he wouldn't take that risk, and number two, he'd probably swallow it. Like, so big difference between the two of them. But yeah, I know what you're saying. No, it's like fucking will he stick to this negative style, turn everybody off him, and then eventually win people over, like just going fucking full blood and guts at a weight class above or something?
I hope so. That'd be class.
Yeah, we'll find out.
That's
but
it.
yeah,
Bollocks, isn't he?
That one, this fight, it's one like I think it's better than people think it is on paper, and that's just because I have a higher opinion of Floyd Schofield than most. I'm not saying he really is has a chance.
In fairness, you've been banging the drum for fucking Floyd Schofield for a while. I would say that. Like, the first time I actually even heard his name mentioned was you. Like, so you have been high on this guy for a while. Hopefully he can deliver. Maybe fucking Shakur Stevenson is taking up too much bandwidth in the sport of boxing with all these performances. Maybe someone needs to get him the fuck out of here. Like, so if Schofield was to win, I don't think anybody would be crying at their conflicts or anything next morning in sympathy with Shakur Stevenson, would they?
No, it's one of those things. Like, there'd probably be like 20 people in New Jersey who are sad about it. That's the
That's the entourage. They're not coming back for the next fucking paycheck. Like,
yeah, like, shit. What's my job for the next year going to be? I don't know, bitch. Go work at a bodega. So anyways, the only other fight before the main event on there, this one could be a good fight. I think there's definitely an interesting test here for Daniel Dubois and his quote-unquote IBF heavyweight title against Joseph Parker. Usually these guys are absolute giants. Parker is kind of, more of a typical size heavyweight, I guess, kind of maybe in the middle a little bit. I think that this fight might actually be a slugfest because Parker can be low output a little bit at times. He can be put down, as you saw in his fight against Zhang. But he's a sturdy operator, and I don't know. My hunch on this one, Justin, is just that on physical terms, I think this fight is going to be pretty equal in the kind of places that you like to see heavyweights throwing punches at each other, kind of a similar level. And I think the ingredients are there for this to be a hell of a heavyweight fight, but it is the heavyweight division. It could be a stinker hug fest. What do you think?
I don't think it's going to be a hug fest. I think Parker is going to probably start out and try to box him, try to move like he's been doing in some of his fights. And then I think Dubois is just going to get to him, probably just wear him down a little bit. And I would say late in the fight, I think Dubois is going to knock him out. Parker's had a good, I guess you would say this is like a renaissance to his career, because his career was just done. And then now he's kind of come back and done some things and earned him another payday. It's a really good payday here in the Saudi.
Oh, yeah.
But I think Dubois there's a lot of question marks about Dubois, but I think he's finally answering those now. I think he's finally I think he's turned that corner. So I would say Parker will work him, but I think Dubois is just going to land the heavier shots. They're going to start to add up as 6, 7, 8 go on, and I think Parker will get stopped probably late. I don't think it's going to be a decision. If it's a decision fight, then you're right. It's going to be a boring ass fight. If this goes 12 rounds and it's a decision, then it's not going to be that interesting. So I'm thinking Dubois stops him late. And it's probably good for boxing if Dubois wins anyway. So, but I think even though they're trying to set up Chisora Dubois, that's the rumor going around, and Dubois wins. But anyway, that's the rumor that they're talking about. So either way, I think Dubois stops him late.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think, James, the only real way for Dubois to make a statement in this fight is to stop Parker. A handful of guys have beaten Parker, most of them by decision. To stop the man, that's a statement.
I think he will stop him, to be honest, but I'm not being funny. I'm waiting for Daniel Dubois to test positive because, I mean, he was a quitter, wasn't he? Like, against Joe Joyce, a bad injury, but even the people that didn't want to call him a quitter kind of circled around it and kind of insinuated he was a quitter. And then against Usyk, he took a knee. Obviously, there's no shame losing there. But, like, again, seemed to quit in the fight. And all of a sudden, against Jarrell Miller, that was a crazy heavyweight fight. If you go back and watch it, the output from both guys, punches thrown, punches landed, it was brutal. And he was pushing a high pace all the way into the end of the 10th round where he got the stoppage and he was walking through walls to do it. Then against Hrgovic, he's swallowing right hands like they're nothing. Like, what's happened?
That was what was I mean, I almost forgot about that. I was watching that fight and Hrgovic couldn't miss. Like, fair play to Dubois. I mean, he stood up to fucking like 20 clean right hands in 3 rounds.
Well, this is what I'm saying. So, like, I know he's changed trainer, but changing trainer doesn't reinforce your skull, does it? So, like, what's changed between the Joe Joyce fight, the Usyk fight, and this monster that we're seeing at the minute? And obviously, he just steamrolled AJ. Like, I didn't see that coming at all. So, and he was walking through big shots, even towards the end of that fight as well. So, I don't know where this Terminator's come from, but I am actually expecting him to piss hard at some point. And all that being said, while he's still in the clear, I think he'll probably win this fight. Even though Parker, very impressive, this resurgence under Andy Lee. I think Andy Lee, I was watching the Bivol Beterbiev, the first fight earlier on today, and Andy Lee calls a fight so quickly and so succinctly, and it's perfect. So I'm not surprised that Parker was able to rehabilitate his career under that guidance, to be honest. And he's even rebounded from a bad knockout loss to Joe Joyce when he was still the juggernaut, really, under Andy Lee, and he's rebounded again. And the wins against Zhang, that win against Zhang is like top level. Like, no one expected him to win that. And against Wilder, I think he slapped him about, really, for the
he barely got touched in that fight. He barely got touched.
So yeah, I think he's been on a very impressive run too. But I think Dubois is looking a bit more destructive at the minute, and potentially on the juice. So yeah, I'm going with Dubois.
All right. Rob, we'll let you get the final word in on this fight.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't know. I think the best thing for the sport is that Dubois remains a title holder because of his exciting style. Like before the fights that he lost, so you referenced the Joyce fight. I actually thought he beat Joe Joyce the first time, so I was high on Daniel Dubois ever since he beat Nathan Gorman and like Mr. Fujimoto and all these guys, like where he was just fucking knocking them over. He was mad exciting. He was young. He was like on the trajectory to become one of the youngest heavyweight champs. But there always looked like there might be something missing, and then we saw how that played out against Joe Joyce and later against Usyk. Having said that, he gave a right account of himself against Usyk, and out of the 5 fights then with take Chisora out of it for the opponents that fought Usyk, but out of the other ones, the 2 fights that AJ had with him and the 2 fights with Fury, he looked the closest to getting something out of the fight. Like in terms of a stoppage, he had him in the most trouble. Now the shot was borderline for me. If it hadn't been called, I think Usyk was selling the break a little bit, and he probably would have jumped back up. But Ultimately he goes on to take that knee. And like you said, he came through. The Jarrell Miller one, I expected him to win that earlier. So he struggled a little bit in that for me, and then eventually got it. But he kind of answered some questions in that. It got murky for him and he hung in there. I think if that was to happen to a guy like Jared Anderson, if it gets murky for him again, I don't think he's hanging in there. I think he's jacking it, especially against the likes of a Hrgovic or something. So he showed something definitely. And then he had his moment. He had his big moment against AJ where he fucking obliterated AJ, like sent him to the fucking shadow realm in one of the most stunning visual knockouts that we've seen in the heavyweight division in recent past. There's been a lot of decisions. So, fucking the world is his, and now he gets this is his reward. He gets fucking Joe Parker on a resurgence with Andy Lee, as you said. Come back from the Zhang fight. I think he's on his 6th straight win since then. Back-to-back wins over Zhang and Wilder. Wilder, people were saying Wilder was finished or whatever, and he looked gun shy. Yeah, cool, he did, but the game plan from Parker and Lee that night was to smother the distance and stop Wilder getting off. And eventually, when he ran out of steam, they took him out or whatever. So it was exciting stuff. And the win then against Zhang just puts him fucking in higher stock. So he's fucking flying it at the moment. It's hard to bet against Parker either. And you think that Parker might be able to take shots too. He might be able to absorb some of that and put the pressure on Dubois late. And then what do we see what it's like? Because I think Dubois is going to come out, throw the kitchen sink. And I think Parker's still going to be in the fight in this latter half of the fight. And I think if it goes there, it favors Parker. So unfortunately, and this is not I don't give a shit. If I know Andy's in with Joe Parker, if I thought Dubois was going to win, I'm saying I hope and for the sport that Dubois remains the titleist because I think he's more exciting and he brings more. But this fight right now for him, I think he would have wanted an easier defense as first defense. Oh. I think maybe it might be similar to Matty's prediction for Barboza. I think maybe a lot of people might think on Sunday morning that Parker's won the fight, but Dubois might get it if it goes to the distance. But I think if it goes into the second half of the fight, you got to favor Parker.
Yeah, he's definitely got the experience when it comes to the late rounds.
Always kind of fought at a high level too, Matty, hasn't he? He's he won his world title. Close fight against Andy Ruiz. He'd been fighting Takam and that before that. He's fought everybody really, hasn't he? He didn't have a good night in his fight with AJ. I remember the ref was terrible that night, wasn't he? He fucking every time they got close and he tried to get on the inside, they broke it. It was I didn't think AJ looked particularly brilliant against Joe Parker. So I think he has something there, and with the changes recently and everything, the new style that he has, he's a hard fucking guy to beat. Really, really hard guy to beat.
Well, he's fighting confidently, which matters a lot for a guy like that. To get off the canvas a couple of times the way he did against Zhang and go late like that to pull out the victory on the cards was impressive.
I think. Do you know what, Matty? I think it'd be really tough on Dubois to lose this fight, and I think it might end him if he did lose it because you see his personality change since he won the AJ fight. The poor chap, he's not comfortable in the public eye. He doesn't warm to public speaking. After he knocked out AJ, there's that clip of him in the dressing room where he's saying to Frank, "I just want to go home now, Frank." And Frank's like, "No, we have to go. Are you fucking kidding me? He's just knocked out Anthony Joshua. We got to go to the press conference. You're the world champion." He's like, "Oh no, I just want to go home, Frank." He's not comfortable, but he's been put in an uncomfortable position of celebrity, and now you hear him say these things I'm the man, I'm the daddy in the division. It's my time, Usyk, let's go. I'm fucking, and he has this kind of goofy, kind of false sense of confidence, and you'd hate to fucking see the guy just. I think it'd do so much to him if he suffered a defeat here.
If Parker knocked him out, his career's over. I don't think he can mentally come. I don't think he can mentally come back from that. And you're right, Parker. Parker, I think Parker is going to come out with the more you think about it. This is his last shot, probably. How many more chances is he going to get? So that could be an extra motivation. But yeah, if Parker, especially if Dubois kind of gets beat down and sort of quits like he's done before, there's no way you come back from this. I don't even know if Warren would. There's no way There's no way to bring this back if he gets knocked out.
Can you believe he's only 33?
Parker.
Yeah.
He seemed like he was 36, 38.
And he's a young 33. His birthday was January 9th.
We got to remember
Wow,
he started early though, so
that's
yeah.
interesting because heavyweights normally peak around 35, 36 these days, don't they? Like, so maybe he's coming into his prime. Like,
this could be it.
Yeah,
interesting.
Heavyweight boxing is not necessarily the mobility game. It's an experience game a lot of the time. So yeah, it's because he is on a good run. Let's see, he lost to Joyce in September of 22. Then he beat Massey, Apelo, Simon Keane, Deontay Wilder, then Zhang. So yeah, he is on a hell of a good run there. And I mean that Joyce loss. I mean that was sandwiched in between 6 straight victories as well in there. I mean not against the greatest of competition. Took Junior Fazo and he Chisora back to back. But yeah,
the funny thing is, if he fought Joyce now, he'd kill him.
Probably.
Like he would just break Joyce down and stop him. But it's just funny how things can change in a couple of years. That Joyce destroyed him. But if they fought now, I say Parker just lays it on Joyce. It's just funny how Joyce's career has the Big Bang just ended all of it.
Yeah,
that fall off's been steep, very steep.
Yeah, and he's fallen from quite the distance too. It definitely hurts collapsing from that freaking height. So, but yeah, like I said, this is a great card. We have some fantastic fights on here, but all this is just appetizer at the end of the day for the main event, which is a rematch of the fantastic unification fight from last year. I'm talking about Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. Beterbiev trying to repeat his victory from last year. Bivol trying to right what he sees as a wrong. That fight was close. I watched it again today, and I you can't help but be impressed at what an incredibly high level that fight was fought on. The adjustments that each guy made, the way that you can actually watch their boxing brain at work. And it's a lot of people think it could have gone either way, and it just happened to go in Beterbiev's favor. And here we are doing it again. Heard some rumors that Bivol's eye is still a little bit messed up. We shall see. But I'm obviously really looking forward to this one. The fact they're getting it going so quickly again, not making us wait around, that's fantastic. But James, watching it back today, I'll tell you what impressed me most about Beterbiev is he wasn't always walking forward. Sometimes he was kind of working the perimeter. He'd stop. He'd throw out a couple jabs, see if he'd get a look he didn't like. And if not, he'd just shuffle off 3 or 4 steps and do the same thing. And he kept doing it until he got the look that he wanted to get. He's a very patient man. He's a very cerebral fighter. And if Bivol is in any way compromised from that last fight, which I think you have to say that Beterbiev definitely won the latter half of the fight for sure. It's going to be tough to see Bivol get into the final bell on this one. Tough as he is, the amazing beard that he showed in the first one. Well, what are your thoughts?
Well, Beterbiev had to be patient in that fight because Bivol was presenting him with so many options. I was taken by just how many tricks Bivol was able to unravel in that fight, to be honest. I mean, Bivol, it's not enough to say that he just boxed on the move because he held his feet plenty and he was using his lead hand, he was feinting, he was jabbing to the body, into the head. And then he would explode with these combinations out of nowhere. So Beterbiev really had to watch what he was doing when he was moving forward. He wasn't just able to march forward and unload with combinations like he's been able to do against opponents in the past. And I think Bivol, he wasn't intimidated. I was kind of captivated by the face-off thing. They sit across the table and they rewatched the fight, and I think they did that for TNT with Steve Bunce. And I was captivated by their demeanors. They were businesslike, they were really impersonal, and they approached it like a sport, but they were so intense at the same time. And that really showed in the professionalism of the fight itself. It was a really clean, hard-fought, intense affair. But I think Beterbiev, he can take Bivol's punching power way better than Bivol can take his. And that's probably an oversimplification of the matter because I actually think Bivol will take confidence from the first fight. I think he made it to the end of the fight believing he'd won. I actually had him winning. I had it 115, 113 with a few close rounds. So happy with the result, whichever way it goes. But I had it to Bivol. And I think he'll actually build on the opportunities he was able to create in this first fight, because Beterbiev looked a little bit, I wouldn't say lost, but he was being presented with a lot of options, and Bivol was adventurous enough and brave enough to take his openings with both hands a lot of times throughout that fight. So I think he'll build on that experience. And Beterbiev, there has to be a decline for him sometime soon. There just has to be. He's nearly 40. He had knee surgery last year, fought tremendously at a high pace, and was probably the more active fighter pushing forward at the end of that first fight. But there has to be a drop-off somewhere. And I think it's likely that it might happen in this rematch when Bivol has more confidence and he's able to rectify the mistakes, the few that he did make from the first fight. I think Bivol's going to win this fight. I think it'll be... I can't really see him stopping him. No chance. But a convincing 116, 112 potentially.
I would have no problems with something that would set up a trilogy between these guys, because we knew for such a long time that they were basically 1A and 1B in the division. This is what we wanted. So, I mean, if this is another close affair that goes the other way, sign me up for fight number 3. Justin, are you feeling strongly any particular way? If you had $20 to put down on a fighter and method of victory, where are you going?
I'm going with James. I think Bivol 115, 113, something like that. I don't know why. I know Beterbiev, won I know how that worked. I thought Bivol was going to win the first fight. And there's something about his boxing ability and it's just his IQ. I just think he's going to find something in this rematch to put him over the top. I just think there's going to be something they're going to do differently. And I think Bivol is going to be close. I mean, and I think 115, 113. That's where I'm leaning.
Going to the cards again. Interesting. It's so funny. The first time, we were thinking of all the outcomes, better be by decision, Bivol by knockout. Not likely, and we ended up with one of them. But I really think they'll be interesting because, as much as people look at the power that Beterbiev brings to the ring, again, as I alluded to earlier, I feel like this is a fight that's all about the head game and who comes in with the best game plan, can shift on the fly the best, and not who just has a plan B, but who might have a plan C, a plan D that they can shift to at times, keep their opponent off balance. Rob, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I was always very, very high on Bivol. I thought Bivol nicked the first fight. I thought it was a very tight fight. I thought Beterbiev won 5 rounds really big, and Bivol nicked the other rounds, but he still won them. So I still had him 7-5. That way. I think that's what a lot of people, not casuals, but even fight fans themselves, like sometimes scoring criteria goes out the window. You have to judge it round by round. And there was rounds there that Bivol wasn't fucking putting a dent in Beterbiev's head by any stretch, but like you said, James, he was opening up with combinations, he was fighting fire with fire, and he was moving when he needed to. And a lot of rounds, Beterbiev,
and it all shows up 10-9 on the scorecards.
Yeah, and it was like Beterbiev a lot of the times. We'll get to this in a second, but Bivol was catching stuff on the gloves, so. Even though it's effective aggression, it's not scoring, it's not clean punches landed because they're not landing on Beterbiev on the target because Bivol is catching them on the gloves. So I think it was up for interpretation, but I thought actually Bivol won the fight, and I was watching it. When I was watching it real time, I thought it was a clear enough win. Even though I could see the rounds were closer and Beterbiev had come on stronger in the second half of the fight, I thought Bivol had enough in the bank that it was a 115, 113. I didn't think it was any more than that in it. But we referenced that catching shots on the glove. So I follow the Iceman, John Scully, on Facebook. And when the press conference was made a couple of weeks back, he posted up a picture of Bivol's, the facial damage that Bivol still has. And he says he turned to Beterbiev when they said they were going to make that rematch early, and he was like, he won't be ready. So he suffered serious facial damage from catching those shots. He has that Eastern European block where he kind of blocks it with his knuckles facing outwards. And that was driving his own fist into his face, even when he was stopping those shots coming in from Beterbiev. We know about his power. You can hear it on the heavy bag in the clips of him training. He's a scary, scary guy. So, saying all that to say this, like high on Bivol, thought Bivol won the first fight, but I think Beterbiev will win the second fight. I think when he's had a look at him, he might know that he can start a little bit earlier. And I don't think Bivol could keep that pace for the whole fight. Maybe Beterbiev can't either, and that's why he has to fight in spots. But I think he's very good at going through the motions, and he might step on the gas even a little bit earlier in the fight this time. And if he does that, I don't know if there's much stuff that Bivol can do differently that he did in the first fight to be effective and win it, that way. So Justin is talking about that. Like, I could see that, like, where, you figure out the guy with the master IQ, he does something differently in the rematch to kind of make the adjustment. But I think he did. I think he fought out of his skin in the first fight just to get to the final bell and put that performance in, and probably should have got it on the cards. But I think this time it's going to be, I think Beterbiev might even wear him down, drop him along the way, like, to a lopsided decision.
All right, another one going decision, man. I'd like for there to be a decisive knockout victory in this one, but you guys are probably right. Probably goes to decision. I think we're going to be going over this fight again. I think we're going to do a Friday show for this one. For whoever can make it, whoever can tune in, see how the weigh-in looks, and hopefully Des will be able to make that one. He had to run, grab his wife from the train station, and apparently the trains in London were all sorts of messed up. So unfortunately, no Des tonight. Oh my God! Look at that! Look at that! It's like a beacon. You say his name and he appears. What the hell? Beetlejuice,
The
Beetlejuice,
universe, and the universe
Beetlejuice.
appears.
Des, do you got any thoughts on Better Be a Bivol?
How you doing? You okay, lads? I've been listening to the pod for the last sort of hour and a half, buzzing around. Yeah, buzzing around. And it's a great boxing content, I've got to say. So knowledgeable, and it's so many different opinions, and all very well founded. I just come on to say that, really, guys. I've had a busy night, mate, and it's been a great pod to have in the background.
Well, fantastic. Well, yeah, as always, we appreciate you coming on. And yeah, Friday we'll be going over some more. Now, Rob had put a couple of things here to talk about, and something I didn't know here. You said Ben Whitaker is going to Andy Lee. That's interesting enough. But you also said there's allegedly Mike Tyson has Parkinson's. Where'd that come from, Rob?
That came from the original Boxing Asylum WhatsApp chat. And I think it might have been Dave Lee or Ozzy that put in a clip that's on Twitter, apparently, where one of the Paul brothers outs on some podcast that Tyson is suffering from Parkinson's disease. So hopefully that's not true or whatever. I didn't get a chance to verify it by looking at the clip or whatever, but it would explain a lot. Based on what we saw on Netflix a few months back. Even at that, like, they said he wasn't well and he was suffering from seizures and stuff. If they've covered that up, by the way, to put Mike Tyson out to fucking fight on Netflix and potentially die, that's fucking barbaric and diabolical and appalling. I suppose that's all I can say about that. Like, you already know my thoughts on fucking whole these guys' space or what they hold up in the boxing. And I wasn't actually surprised. When I heard that Canelo was going to fight Jake Paul, I was thinking that's that Netflix money talking. Like, but obviously Turkey Ashik's fucking checkbook is a bit bigger. Like, and thankfully they rescued that. But I wouldn't have been surprised to see that happen. So that train will ultimately roll on. I haven't had a chance to verify the other one either. I just saw it on a news article pop up in one of my social media feeds, and it was that Ben Whitaker to Andy Lee. Now, I don't
Makes
have
sense,
any
that one,
insights
Rob.
on it.
Makes sense, that one, doesn't it?
I think after the camera fight, they might have gone and say, like, "Oh, we need to go back to Sugar," and I'd say maybe Sugar's in the US.
Correct.
They maybe made the reference to get Andy the gig, like, which probably does make sense. He needs a bit of focus, I think, at this stage of his career. Like, he's had it too easy go on the way up, so he needs to sharpen up a little bit. I don't know what that relationship's going to look like.
I think as well, Rob, you need, when you're boxing, you need to be in the gym all the time. You need to be in contact with your trainer every day. And I think Andy Lee might be that bridger. He might be the middle ground between Sugar and Ben and
Well,
Sugar
Sugar
Mama.
him lived. They lived together with Manny. The two of them kind of came up together when
Correct.
Sugar
Yeah.
was kind
Yeah.
of learning his trade under Manny, like in the kind of the second in a lot of the corners. They would have they lived in the house together, so know each other really, really well. Obviously, fucking trained together. And worked with Fury together, so they're both on a kind of hot streak. In terms of Andy especially, so it does make sense. He might be the go-to trainer now. I don't think Andy will try to take too much away from him. I think he'll let him still do his plan, but like that, he is who he is. But they maybe sharpen up the technique on some of the shots. So I would have thought that Whitaker would beat Cameron the second time out anyway, regardless of whether Andy Lee was in the corner or not. So it's definitely not a biased shout, but I would expect Whitaker to come through the Cameron rematch.
I think the big issue with Ben Whitaker is the expectation of him to be a puncher. He's not a puncher. So the comparison that they've made with Naz and what people expect him to do in the first 3 or 4 rounds, it's going to take Ben Whitaker a long time to do that. So I think there's just this high expectation of Ben Whitaker. Yes, he's talented and he's got an awful lot of variation and he's going to be in entertaining fights, but he ain't a puncher, he ain't a banger, and you ain't going to get that from him. So I think they should probably draw back on the expectations of him a little bit, and perhaps the audience can try to enjoy a different version of Ben Whitaker. But
What you do see with Andy fighters,
it doesn't help himself all the time, that kid.
I know he's a fucking moron. Like he's one of a long list of boxers whose brains are in their fists. But he's fucking. I would say what I would say about Andy Lee fighters is a lot of them sit down on the shots. Like if you look at Paddy Donovan, Joe Parker, Fury when he was there with him, like they really sit down on shots to try to knock people out, Kronk style. Like so, I'd say they'd be looking at fundamentals of throwing the shots, like sitting down to add powers, even if he's not a puncher, but you have enough to keep someone off you in fucking close fights.
Less feet, more fists. You know, like slow your feet down and just work on them hands a little bit. Very similar to what they did with Fury. You're right.
So we'll have to see what it looks like, but yeah, it's I suppose it's fucking an interesting one. But yeah, the other one is just fucking diabolical news. But I suppose we don't want to give it too much time.
Well, apparently, I just had to look into that briefly, and I found the clip. Apparently, they're trying to say that like Mike Tyson's Parkinson's was cured before the fight. He said before the fight.
That's a relief.
Tyson, what? They cured Parkinson's through Mike Tyson?
Yeah, they must have got to it after that AIDS cure that time. That's fine. That's fine.
Maybe it was the licking toads, or I don't know what's going on, but that's I
don't know, man. I got Parkinson's. Spinal.
Matty. Yeah. Matty, can you hear me, mate?
Yeah.
I know. I'm not going to go back on it, but I just want to say, Barboza is like an American version of Jack Catterall. And last night, Jack Catterall was against someone that was very disciplined, that took his time, showed a lot of patience, didn't overextend his punches, was prepared to wait and see who blinked first. And Barboza did the job on Jack Catterall that Jack Catterall does on most guys. He just outweighted him. And I thought the right man got it, but it was a close one.
It was a tight fight. Shocking again, as I said earlier, that to get that fight when you're not on your own home turf. Like I thought he did enough, but oftentimes the fights like that, especially the way that the crowd would roar anytime that Catterall would throw his left hand too. Like it was the weight of the crowd was so obvious in the way that they were. But it's almost like as long as the crowd was silent, Barboza was doing well.
Barboza is similar to Catterall, and he's a minimalist. It's very short steps, one shot, and that's what Jack Catterall wins fights on. Like he knows how to sort of nullify a certain type of Josh Taylor, and he kind of nip and tucked Prograis until the 8th or 9th. Then Prograis trying to rush his work and overextended, and then that's when Jack Catterall pulled away. But Barboza didn't play into that last night. He was really patient, and he done everything in a very few steps, single shots. He was very happy with what he did, his work he was doing, and he just nicked rounds, and he believed in the system. And last night, the system didn't let him down. it was a close fight, but I do think Barboza just nicked it. He edged it by 1 or 2, and the judges didn't let him down. And if you can believe in judges, if you're prepared to be the away fighter and prepared to roll the dice on that style, and it comes off, it's really good strategy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that was. It'll be interesting where Barboza goes from here. I wouldn't be shocked to see a rematch, but then again, that wasn't a very entertaining fight. See here, Ames joining us here real quick again before the end. Ames, do you have any final words about Bivol Beterbiev or anything that you might have missed during your brief foray to go get a sandwich or whatever you were doing?
How did you know what I was doing, mate?
What's that? You just seem like the kind of guy who will leave things to have a sandwich.
Spot on, mate. How much are you paying for this pay-per-view?
It's only $24.95. Not bad.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, that's really good.
Yeah, for US stuff, that's ridiculous considering some of the things I've paid $75 for.
And forget belly of the week. What's the parlay of the week?
Oh man, looking at all those fights, I think I would probably take Shiraz, Buatsi, and who else would I think I would throw in there that I feel pretty good about? The Stevenson fight to go the distance. I think I would take those 3 things together, and you probably have a pretty decent little parlay.
Just to run through it all pretty quickly, I think Buatsi probably beat Callum Smith on points, but I think that'll be a closer fight than it's expected to be. I think a lot of people are kind of not giving Callum Smith the credit as a fight that he is, although he is getting on now. Zhang versus Catterall. Don't know. Like I think only takes one really with Zhang, and Catterall's looked really, really good. But I think Zhang and his team are really working on him and his fitness, and that so that he can kind of go past the 4th and 5th round and further and have a bit more left in the gas tank. I've got a sneaky feeling about Zhang by KO in that fight. Stevenson versus Schofield, Stevenson by points. Ortiz Jr. versus Madrimov. I like both men. I quite like Ortiz Jr. a lot, just in terms of his personality. And he's a fellow rocker like myself, but I think Madrimov will have too much for him. I think Madrimov beats him on points. Adames versus Hamza Shiraz could go either way. Really, I hear a lot of fighters that I've spoken to that aren't set on Hamza Shiraz running through Adames like he has done with his other opponents. So either man could win that one. Dubois versus Parker, I'm pretty set on Daniel Dubois getting the victory in maybe the mid rounds. I think Joe's good. Joe's had obviously the resurgence over the last few years, and the brief, well, not brief, but the lingering question mark surrounding Joe is whether he had that spite about him and whether he'd lost that. And I don't think we've particularly seen a spiteful Joe Parker, and the ambition has been there, the determination has been there to get himself back into the world title picture. He's cast those doubts beside him. But I don't think it'll be enough, even with the resurgence that he's had. The way that the fight with Joe Joyce went, and that's not that long ago, even though Joyce has slipped down remarkably since that win. It was a fight where eventually Joe got to him, the pressure told, and the guard couldn't keep up, and the punches got through, took their toll, and it was a bit of a brutal knockout for Parker. I think Dubois just carries a bigger threat, a little bit more intensity, and riding the rocket of confidence. I think eventually he'll get through that guard and win by knockout, probably like the 5th or 6th round. Beterbiev versus Bivol 2, going the similar sort of way of what's been said on the panel. I think Beterbiev will win. I think Beterbiev will win on points. I think either way, even with the damaged eye, which I've heard as well too, that you were saying, Matty, I think that these two are just destined to fight in a close fight where either man could win. But I think Beterbiev, I don't know, I think it's smart that they've had this fight immediately or as quick as they could, not just because of the potential eye injury, but also just the age and the activity. Beterbiev and the question marks surrounding him and his injury. If that was a Beterbiev that was possibly injured, then this will be a Beterbiev coming into this one who's not got that injury. He's going to be as close to 100% as he could have been or can be now in this fight with Bivol. So he might have that extra gear in him. I don't think we'll see an extra gear from him, but I think we'll see a little bit more shots getting through earlier in the rounds, and that'll be enough for him to get the victory again on the card. So I'm going with Beterbiev, repeat victory over Dimitri Bivol.
Excellent. I like those takes. It's a lot of those fights are up in the air, and honestly, the way I'm gonna play things is I think I'm gonna put and I know you guys disagree with me on this. Weren't 100%, but I think I'm gonna put Buatsi, Shiraz, and Bivol in a parlay, but also do Buatsi, Shiraz, and Beterbiev in a parlay. I think because I feel pretty clean about the first two, but this main event, I don't know. The first one could have gone either way. It happened to go to Beterbiev. It's way up in the air in my opinion.
I'm getting in on this parlay, by the way. I think I'm going to do an accumulator this weekend, just for the crack.
Fuck yeah!
See what we get.
Mm.
Too many
Matthew,
fights. Too many fights not to. Too many good. Because on a lot of what puts me off a lot of parlays is on main events. You have a lot of dross on the undercard, but obviously this is not the case. This is fucking top level stuff all the way through, pretty much. So yeah, I'll have a bite at this. Like we'll see what happens.
What I would say, Matty, about the main event, Bivol's already done 12 with Beterbiev, so he's going to have a lot of effects after that. Most people do, and I can't see Bivol getting through 24 rounds and coming out the better guy. I think this fight's going to really show. I think Beterbiev will really get to Bivol in this one, and I think Bivol played his big hand. I think that winning the first minute of each round and trying to survive the last 2 minutes, I don't think it worked for him in the first fight, and I think Beterbiev will be wise to it and he'll shut him down. I think Bivol will have to play. He'll have to go for it, and I think that will play into Beterbiev's hands. He can't do the same thing this fight. It never worked for him the first one. I just can't see how Bivol can get round Beterbiev. He had his chance in the first one, and I think that window's closed now. I think Beterbiev just gets better. And the Dubois and Parker one is really interesting because we know Andy Lee is not going to go for a shootout. So he's going to say to Joe, shoot and move. Now, whenever you've seen anyone show Daniel Dubois angles and feet and not be there, it kind of makes Daniel Dubois have to think. And I think that's where Daniel Dubois might get into problems. It becomes problematic when Daniel Dubois has to stop and think about what he's doing. His best performances have been Hrgovic, Miller, and AJ, and they was all shootouts. So it'd be interesting to see what version of Joe Parker turns up. But what we can say is, on the back of Daniel Dubois' best wins, the best performances, Andy Lee will not send Joe Parker in to have a shootout. So it's going to be really interesting to see if Daniel Dubois can beat an informed Joe Parker that in the last few has shown he can use his feet as well as his hands.
I like those takes. I like those takes a lot. So yeah, this has been fun. Getting back to one of our old school 3-hour podcasts here almost. It's had a great panel here. And like I said, I think we're going to be back here again on probably Friday after the weigh-in to go over this again. There's a lot to look forward to on this card. It's definitely on paper one of the best cards that's happened this century. Just a fantastic, almost probably too much. I think, probably about 7 hours long. Maybe our cups runneth over, but we shall see. But it has been a fantastic time here with the group today. We've had Justin, James, Rob, Dez, and Ames on here. And if anybody doesn't have anything else, I think that's our show.
One more thing, Matty.
You got it.
How good was Keyshawn?
That was beautiful. Yeah. To do what he did in 4 rounds is incredible. I mean, Berinchyk, a deep amateur pedigree, Olympian.
Has Berinchyk got a little bit old, do you think? You've covered all this, haven't you? Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you got to go over the hill, but he did so well against that.
Go ahead, Rob, and get your analysis in at 11 hour. Go ahead, Rob.
But I'll tell you, Keyshawn just gets better and better. And the better the opponent, the better he performs. He's got every punch in the book. He can switch. I think he's got the dog in him. That kid is going to be hard to beat. And so's Abdullah Mason.
Yeah,
Anyway,
and
keep going.
I hope they fight each other someday. That would be the best outcome for boxing fans, and we'll see if it happens. But this is
Abdullah Mason and Keyshawn could be the Bud Crawford Spence of its generation, and we might even
Correct.
get it
Good
earlier.
shout.
We might even get it earlier.
Have we spoke about Jada Dickens as well for Barrett, mate?
Yep. Anyhow, but yeah, we'll be back here hopefully on Friday, and then again next on Sunday again to review all this stuff. We got a Nakatani fight coming up. We've got that stupid Tank Davis card. There's some good stuff coming our way, and we'll be here to talk about all of it on the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse. And again, I'd like to thank Danielle De Rossi for chipping over 10 pounds. That is very much appreciated. I know times are tight right now, so everyone here at the Boxing Asylum loves you very much for that one. And we thank everyone who listened this week, and we'll see you next time around, which is next Sunday.
We'll never forget.
I think that's good happening.
Go to and move! We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking wank that can fight me.
I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Rumpo fucking Steltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7 year ain't. 7 year ain't. I will fucking smash fucking you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love Boxing Asylum. It's as simple as that.